welcome to the Vicky Vale Show. How's everybody doing tonight? Late night podcast once again on the O1 channel because this is the only times that I have available. I literally just finished an 8-hour stream, and now it's time for another long stream. But who cares about that, right? How are you all doing? Nice to see some of you. So we got a lot of ground to cover tonight. You guys have wanted to know so many things, and I really wanted to do a podcast last week when a lot of this stuff happened, but I wanted to wait until the dust settled because we weren't done yet. What you're witnessing right now, I told you guys, 2 weeks ago, that you would be experiencing the birth pains of WB Warner Discovery, and things would continue to escalate, and, things definitely went away that I wasn't expecting, but now that DC Films is finally out of the Z-Team sites, they're going to move on to other properties that is owned by Warner Discovery, such as DC Comics, TNT, TBS, CNN, and the like. But for the most part, I would say the casualties of HBOMAX and DC Films are done for now. There were some good things that happened with the DC film stuff, and there were some bad things that happened. I know some of you guys are on the offense with the Batgirl stuff. Some of you were very happy with some aspects of Restore the Snyderverse coming back to some extent. But I'm just here to remind you that just because Snyderverse actors come back does not necessarily mean that the story that Zack Snyder had in mind is going to continue the way that you think it is. I really do not believe that. I also want to warn a lot of you guys and gals, do not go and listen to scoopers giving you dates and timetables for when a lot of this stuff is going to happen. As we've seen with movies like Aquaman and Shazam being delayed, well, those dates can't really be trusted. So always take rumors with a grain of salt because you never know what's going to happen. And I, for one, I think that in terms of the war with DC Films, some things are going to start to settle down a little bit. We know for a fact that Warner Discovery can only release 2 Warner Brothers movies this year. The Rock's Black Adam movie and some type of rom-com, because Shazam is now gone from December. It's not happening. Shazam is going to be taking up the slot that Aquaman had for 2023, and Aquaman is being moved all the way to December, which is going to make it take place after The Flash. And I know some people are like, well, now they're just going to bring Keaton back. No. I have on good authority to believe that the Flash movie is going to be a one-off for Michael Keaton. Not a one-off for Supergirl should she choose to stick around. Because I believe that Supergirl is going to end up in a Superman movie. I don't think she's getting her own vehicle film just yet. It's too soon. And I also hope that Leslie Grace will stick around for, showing up as Batgirl in a Batman movie, but I don't think she's going to. Leslie Grace, according to her camp and a lot of rumors and people who were jilted with, the Batgirl movie, doesn't sound like Leslie Grace is going to be sticking around. So maybe, just maybe, we will get a comic-accurate Batgirl. It's possible. As I said before, I think it would be great if Warner Discovery would offer Leslie Grace the ability to reprise her role as Batgirl, but it sounds like probably not going to happen, although they did offer it. So we'll see what goes on with that. But I hope they do, bring her into it, but if they don't, maybe an actress like Zoe or, a traditional redhead would be for the best. So, one of the big news that happened right now is, I don't know if I'm saying this guy's name right, but the Kevin Feige type Warner Brothers Discovery executive is being looked at. His name is Dan Lin. Dan Lin has been around since the time of Alan Horn, which, as you guys know, is the biggest consultant who is kind of like, we'll say the ear to David Zaslav, or Zaslav, whatever you want to call him. And Alan Horn really likes this Lin guy. The Lin guy was known for doing a lot of stuff with the Lego franchise while it was at Warner Brothers. We don't know what's going on with the Lego franchise anymore. I believe it's switched hands in terms of licensing, and I don't know how that's going to impact the Lego games with WB Games. We don't really know what's going on with that. They haven't announced a new Lego game after the Lego Star Wars thing. The Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga was very successful. But at this time, still no announcement for the next Lego game done by Warner Brothers. But Dan Lin has a really good resume, and he is in the running to be the DC Films or DC Studios guy who would answer to David Zaslav, and also work with Alan Horn again. So I'm hoping that this guy will, do a better job than Walter Hamada. Walter Hamada tried to do a whole multiverse thing, which maybe would have worked out. I don't know. I'm still very apprehensive about the idea of a 70-year-old Michael Keaton not doing a Batman Beyond flick, and basically taking over all the cameo roles that Ben Affleck would have had, and which is weird because Ben Affleck is doing those cameo roles now. I know that a lot of people have said that he's in a great headspace right now, so Jason Momoa had a lot of fun working with him, and Jason Momoa can't shut up because he's been doing a lot of press for Aquaman, even though his movie got moved, and he was very excited to work with Ben Affleck. He was the first one to let the cat out of the bag. I don't know if he was supposed to do that, but I'm kind of glad he did because Warner Brothers was going through a lot of bad press after their debacle at San Diego Comic-Con. So I think we owe Jason Momoa a little bit of our gratitude as DC fans because that was kind of a cool thing that he did. I know some people are saying, well, since this movie's coming out after The Flash now, meow, then that means that, Michael Keaton, of course, is going to be back. I don't think so. I think that you're going to be witnessing more cameos with Ben Affleck, probably in the Blue Beetle movie. I don't believe the Blue Beetle movie is going to be canceled. Because, that was a high-production film, and they did a lot of good things with the story and things like that. The costume was great, and they didn't make the same mistake that the Batgirl movie did, which it's kind of interesting getting to the Batgirl topic right now. I know people are very mixed on that movie, but it was bad. I know some people are saying, well, it was the same test screenings as Shazam and Aquaman and Black Adam. No, it wasn't. Black Adam and Shazam were never called irredeemable, terrible movies, and CW show in terms of what the audience referred to the Batgirl movie as. There are some people that were very close to the Batgirl movie that said, oh, no, the test screenings were exactly like Black Adam. No, they were not. The audience walked away disgusted. There were parts of the movie that just wouldn't fly that they put in because of, there's really no other way to say it. There's a lot of woke stuff in the movie. At the heart of the movie, there was a father-daughter stuff, but they were really pushing the envelope, Warner Media was. And some interesting things happened to Brendan Fraser's character, which is kind of sad. He does die in the movie. It's a tragic death, but the way that the movie orchestrates things about him, especially Leslie Grace, things like that, he was a tragic villain, and he was treated poorly by, we'll say, the story. The story was actually kind of sweet in a sense because he became a villain due to not being able to afford insurance for his wife. And so kind of like a Mr. Freeze type thing, he was a villain based on his circumstances, not the fact that he was just a bad guy. He had a lot of bad things happen to him, and he had to, resort to crime, I believe. Okay, Zelda has to go in the basement. You're going to destroy things. Come here. And there she goes. Meow. Can I just get a sidekick that will actually just sit still? That would be nice. But yeah. So, the Batgirl movie wasn't going to be good. Everybody says, well, you could have just replaced Ben Affleck for Michael Keaton's role. No, you really don't want that because Michael Keaton was demeaned. Well, I mean, in the script he was demeaned. They treated him like, a big deal on set. But the story didn't do Michael any favors. He was in 5 scenes. There was no true ending to the movie because they didn't know how they were going to end the movie. Either they were going to have Michael Keaton die in the movie, which really would have upset fans, because the Aquaman movie was going to come out either after or before the Batgirl movie at one point. So it's just like all over the place. They were going to have a scene where he says, I retire and I make you Batman, literally calling Batgirl Batman. And then there was a scene that could have been at the end of the movie where they meet up on a gargoyle and glide away to the ending credits with Batgirl in her new costume. So there was never a concrete ending, which is also troubling. The movie was written so poorly that they would have to reshoot so many things in order to make it make sense in the long scheme of things if they were to continue to keep it in this new continuity. There might have been some way of doing it, but since they were going with the whole DCU, which I know some people hate that, but that's exactly where Warner Media was heading with the direction of their DC superhero films. Supergirl, Batgirl at the front. Batman, Superman not even in the equation except for Matt Reeves' stuff. And Michael B. Jordan's Superman project over on HBOMAX, which we have no new information about that, by the way. I don't believe it's canceled. I think we're going to find out that the Quixotes thing is going to get scrapped because, I mean, J.J. Abrams hasn't done anything with the $250 million that he got. There's been no DC film projects whatsoever other than his collaboration with the Cape Crusader, which we'll talk about later because people want to talk about the Cape Crusader too. But there was no way of salvaging Batgirl. The directors, I can't say their names. I believe they're Arabic or something. But they have two different faces that they're showing people. One face is they tell Warner Discovery, we're not upset and we'll love to work with you again. And then they have another side of their personality where they're telling people, leak the movie, do it, screw over Warner Brothers. So, I mean, I don't really know. The same thing, the actors attached to the movie have been saying some pretty interesting things. One lady wrote this really big tirade on not Instagram. It was Twitter. I believe it was the co-star of Batgirl who plays like the best friend of Babs or something like that. They went into this whole rant on Twitter. And, you know, for the most part, it was okay. But then they literally acknowledged what many of us feared. They said that it is a woke movie. Very woke. And that right there, it's like you knew that movie, based on the direction that Warner Discovery is going, means your movie is dead in the water. So the fact that they acknowledged what a lot of concerns Batman fans had with this movie, Michael Keaton was going to be, pushed aside, basically. Have 5 scenes, maybe, if they kept all 5 of his scenes. Batgirl was going to be at the forefront, which, in reality, what they should have done a long time ago is just how they introduced Batgirl in the animated series, the Shadow of the Bat storyline. Incorporate that a little bit from how they did in the comics, and combine that with the Shadow of the Bat stuff and the Batgirl Year One, and boom, you got a movie. You just have Batman like with a bigger role. Batman was going to have a very minimal role in this, and for the direction that they were going with the narrative, it wouldn't have worked. This would have been the worst Batman-centered or Batman-featured character movie in existence. Like, Batman and Robin kind of holds that candle very proudly. Batgirl would have dethroned it. So it's a really good thing that it didn't come out. I know a lot of people are like, well, the movie needs to come out for sake of representation. No, it doesn't. Movie needs to come out because it needs to be a quality film. You have to stop releasing crap because eventually people are going to be like, do I really want to be pressured to see this movie because why? Like, oh, it's the first time I've seen Batgirl in a movie? No, it's not. The first time you've seen Batgirl in a movie was Batman and Robin, and it sucked. So you want to see another Batgirl movie that's going to suck? I mean, come on. You people need to, demand quality products. And that's what Zaslav is going to do. Eventually. He wants to put out quality stuff. Batgirl, the Wonder Twins, not quality. The Supergirl movie idea, not quality. Quixote's Superman with J.J. Abrams, not quality. You sensing a theme here? You can't just release stuff because of, whoever is cast in the role, whatever their skin color is. That's not how you make money. That's what Twitter thinks. Twitter's like, oh, well, they're going to get in trouble for doing this. It's like, how? You idiots even realize that the dude is basically like the major shareholder of the company? Have you not watched Batman Begins? Did you not see what Bruce Wayne did? They tried to fire Bruce Wayne. What did he do? He bought majority of the shares. So guess what? He's like a big shareholder. Not only that, the people that can fire him, take lessons, okay? The people that can fire Zaslav are now all his people. He already booted all the Warner Brothers troublemakers. They're gone. Walter Hamada's contract is ending. Toby Emmerich is gone. He got rid of that crazy lady. He got rid of so many psychos and replaced them with his people. So just explain this to me. How are you going to fire him? The only way you can get rid of him is if he leaves. Hollywood has no power. They're scared of this guy. He's canceling things left and right. He's basically trying to get back $50 billion in losses that AT&T amassed over the last, 3 years. He's doing all that in, it hasn't even been a year yet. He's made more cuts in Hollywood history in 1 month. And people are like, oh no, we're going to somehow get this guy fired. No, you can't, morons, unless you get, somebody like Elon Musk to buy Warner Discovery, and then he can somehow have more shares than Discovery. Then yeah, maybe. But you don't really have anybody on that side because, I'm sorry, there is no real major woke billionaire. They don't exist. So what are you going to do? Nothing. You can stamp your feet and you can say, my feelings. But the guy's going to keep, taking a chop shop. What are you going to do when he actually euthanizes DC Comics soon? You don't even buy the comics anyway. Why do you care? I'm concerned for your sanity, Twitter. Because if you think that it's over, they're like, oh, okay, so he got rid of 33 HBOMAX shows. It's okay. And then it's like, Cape Crusader, what? And then all this other stuff. And they're just they keep getting knocked down and think that he's done. He's going to calm down. He's going to do the Hollywood thing. No, he's going to do the New York City business thing. He has to cut costs and do tons of stuff because of how much Warner Media failed. Warner Media was a failure. Major failure. They had a couple hit movies. That was it. They were bleeding money from the CW, which David Zaslav got rid of for free. CW was a sinking ship, and he's like, here you go. Take this off my hands, please. HBO Max, a lot of HBO Max stuff was working, but a lot of the shows that they canceled, no one was watching. There was 33 shows that got the axe. They didn't want to pay the royalties to a lot of Sesame Street stuff. But there was so much misinformation. People are like, oh, they got rid of Sesame Street. No, they didn't. They got rid of 400 episodes out of 1,000? It's why lie? Sesame Street is still on HBO Max. It's just not the entire thing. Why would you pay for the entire catalog that no one is watching? I don't think people understand how to actually spend and do money. I really don't. It's why are you people stupid? It's not you guys. When I'm calling people stupid, I'm calling people on Twitter stupid. I'm not calling you guys dumb. My audience is intelligent. People on Twitter are morons. Okay? Whenever I see trending topics and all these people are like, we're going to get him on legal grounds and all this other stuff, it's like, what are you talking about? It's he's not a politician. He's a TV executive or whatever. I'm going to hold him on certain grounds. He can cancel and do whatever he wants. He's the owner. Giving him death threats is great. I love the fact that a little while ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, when he started cutting costs for something, and you had DC pros bad-mouthing the boss and trying to hashtag, or not, yeah, they started a hashtag fire David Zaslav. These are DC employees. They started the hashtag fire David Zaslav, and they were calling him a comic book villain. They were calling him racist and all this other stuff. And I'm just thinking, you idiots, this is your boss. Jim Lee is not your boss anymore. It's Warner Discovery. And you're here, I just, do you all share a brain cell? What? It doesn't compute. You would think that you would, maybe bide your time and try to kiss up to the new guy. All you're going to end up doing is getting fired. And they're scrubbing their Twitter like crazy. They're like, oh my gosh, he's actually firing people. And, we can't do anything with HR. It's of course. It's why are you this dumb? It's did you know there was actually a code of conduct that DC Comics used to have on Twitter before 2000 and what was it? It was it 2015, 2017? There was actually a code of conduct where, I know this is a shocker, but DC employees had to, like, one, not attack their fans because, you know, fans aren't going to buy books when you're fighting with them all the time. You're also going to get a very bad reputation from DC fans in general, which, shocker, that's what happened. But they had a code of conduct where they weren't allowed to do certain things. And then Warner Media was put in place, and they put a lot of wackos in that. And they basically chucked their code of conduct. They also started witch hunting people out of the industry. They had a whole Whisper network, and all this stuff was true. And now the Whisper network is freaking out. They're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? We can't say and do whatever we want. Our free speech is under attack. But didn't you say that free speech is not freedom from consequences? So you calling your new boss a Yahtzee and all this other stuff, I mean, didn't you just kind of play yourselves? I mean, or is it rules for thee, but not for me? Is that how it works? You know, I just doesn't compute. And I know common sense is lacking on these idiots, but I found it hilarious. I'm sitting here taking screen grabs of all these, like, DC pros thinking, you know, if they really need to see all this stuff, it's like I could put all this thread on Twitter. All these people freaking out, you know. It's great. And that was just 2 weeks ago. So what happens, like, theoretically, because the axe is coming down on DC Comics. We don't know when, but it is happening. There's so much going on behind the scenes that's amazing. Dark Crisis is a failure. DC Future State is a failure. Comic books are not booming. Comic books are drowning. All their replacements for Batman and Superman, like Jace Fox and Jonathan Kent, they're all abysmal. The sales are in the toilet. Worse than we've ever seen in 10 years. And morons on social media are like, comics are better than ever. It's like, where are you getting this? What are you talking about? Some of your brand new diversity characters can't even crack the top 100. And they're replacements of legacy characters. It's like, what are you smoking? Can I have some? Because you're not living in reality world. You're living in Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs world. Doesn't make any sense. It's not a thriving industry. It will be when Discovery gets done with it, and you see like just like a whole mass of people just get yeeted, and it will happen. Might not happen today, might not happen this month, but with DC Films taken care of, there are different things on David's shopping list. So people just breathe a sigh of relief for now, because what I really like about this strategy is he doesn't tell you when he does things, which is great. I don't think you should give people a heads up, because then they can prepare and they can make campaigns against you. You got to be like an assassin and just be like, yes! You know, go in there, root them out, boom, they can cry about it after they're fired. You know, don't give them any heads up. You don't owe these people anything. They've been literally plowing DC Comics into the ground. You know, scratch that. DC Comics is a ship, and they filled it up with, what do they call that stuff? Cement. They filled the ship up with cement, and they're wondering why the ship is sinking. That's a great illustration, actually. I'm going to use that. You know? It's like, take the cement out of the boat, and maybe the boat will, you know, get a little bit better, right? But no, they just want to keep piling the cement on because reasons. I don't even want to get into some stuff, but I want you guys to be very careful with the Gotham Knights story. The Gotham Knights game that's coming out. I have heard things that some of you are not going to like. And a lot of that is going to be echoed in the prequel comic about the runaway superhero, which you can probably get that. But a lot of the people associated with that, all you have to do is go to their Twitter and you can tell exactly what is going to be in that. And if it matches up with things I've heard, then the story is going to be weird. It's going to have the Court of Owls stuff in it, yes. But it's going to have other things that really have no place in a Batman story. And I made fun of Arkham Origins for continuity. And I do appreciate in Gotham Knights how they built up a city based on, you know, some of the aspects that they were doing with Arkham Origins. I liked what they did with the mystery behind the Arkhams and that one Pickney guy or whatever. So they've expanded that quite a bit with Gotham Knights, right? But at the same time, because reasons, they've added things into the game that, not just side missions, that will cause some of you to flip out. And you have a right to flip out, because it doesn't deserve to be in a Batman story. The prequel comic is garbage from what I hear, but Twitter will praise it. The book is average, but it pushes things or whatever. But they're counting on people to buy it because Batman's in it, basically. But the prequel book is blah. It's, you know, but it is actually canon to their game, so that's a first. So, yay, good job. You actually made a prequel that is connected in story to your game. That's a first. Except I think Dini did that with some of his stuff until Rocksteady said, your thing is no longer canon. So, anyway, let's continue with the Gotham Knights topic real quick. A lot of people are like, hey, what do you think of Harley Quinn in Gotham Knights? You're talking about the picture, which I actually don't want to show. I think that her Arkham Asylum attire, her loungewear is kind of no problem. I don't see why they couldn't have done that. But then they hit her with the ugly stick with her clown makeup, and she looks like... I don't even know how to put it. Her look is disturbing. She has like this chalk like the weird. I'm looking at the picture. I don't even know how to describe it. It looks terrible. Like, I know people are like, well, this is Telltale Harley Quinn. It's like, no, go back and look at Telltale Harley Quinn and look at Gotham Knights Harley Quinn. Gotham Knights Harley Quinn is you. Like, whatever they did with the face makeup, and the game's already gone gold, so they can't fix this. This is her final design. She looks terrible. I don't like it. I've heard people explain why they don't like it. I've heard some people like, yay, Harley Quinn! That's all they talk about because they're shills. You know, they have to be because they work for Warner Brothers, so they have to make their videos and be like, oh my gosh, look at Harley Quinn! She looks amazing! It's like, right. It's like, so what incentive did you get from WB? How early you're getting the game? What kind of gift package did they send you? Because you're going to honestly tell me that this Harley Quinn costume is good? Really? Okay. Sure. I'm not going to. I've received no compensation from Warner Brothers anymore. And even if I did, I'd be like, I would say something if I was under contract. I would let you guys know subtly that it's not good. But everybody else is just like, yay, Harley Quinn looks the best ever. It's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So yeah, you know, that's the Gotham Knights section for right now. I don't really want to get into all that anymore. But let's talk about Ben Affleck. So what's going on with Benny Boy? Well, Ben is in a great thing right now. Like, you know, he's really happy with his wife. In fact, he had 2 weddings to her. One in Las Vegas. And then, I believe, I might be wrong, there was a wedding with family and friends that happened last week. Like, right, I think it was in Atlanta or Alabama, one or the other. And Ben is back at work. He's hitting the gym. He got back into shape to appear as Batman in some cameo roles. And we don't know what's happening with him after that. In fact, there are some crazy rumors going around that I don't believe are true. I'm just going to let you know. That Ben is going to come back and do a Batman movie. And I just want to, like, pump the brakes right there. At this time, I do not believe that Ben Affleck is going to come back in his own solo Batman movie. However, I do believe that he is going to show up in various cameo roles as Batman and Bruce Wayne in the new DC universe after the Flash movie. The Flash movie is getting a new ending. After Ezra whatever, does whatever Ezra needs to do, they're going to have to shoot a new ending because Michael Keaton is not going to be Batman after The Flash. It doesn't work. If Michael Keaton was sticking around, they wouldn't have canceled the Batgirl movie because the Batgirl movie takes place after The Flash and is the last appearance, supposedly, that Michael Keaton was supposed to have. He wasn't even going to show up in the Black Canary movie. Black Canary was going to show up and talk to Michael Keaton, which would lead into the Black Canary movie that Keaton wouldn't even be a part of because they were going to write him out because they don't want Batman in a Black Canary movie because the people that were responsible for writing most of these movies don't like male characters. If you saw the Batgirl movie, which I have not, but I've heard on numerous accounts from 2 different people have seen the screenings, and they explained in detail what was wrong with the movie. And it makes sense. If you've seen the Harley Quinn movie and how they treated male characters, they did it worse in Batgirl. The only character that was treated with respect was Jim Gordon. Like I said, the Firefly character, he was not necessarily a bad guy. He had bad things happen to him that made him a villain. So they did like the Mr. Freeze thing, right? And they just, I guess they forgot about that story aspect, and they just turned him into a cartoon villain for like the remainder of the movie till he dies in a comical way. Similar to what happened to Black Mask. Yep. It's the same lady who wrote the book, or the Harley Quinn thing. Whoops. So, you know, and we're going to find out more with the funeral screenings too, to see like what version of the film they're actually showing to people. But, you know, all the screenings were bad. The story was bad. It's irredeemable, unfixable. You'd have to like basically fire the writer and reshoot an entire movie because there's no way. And I've seen people, they're like, well, just bring in Ben. It's like, you really want Ben Affleck attached to this dumpster fire? I don't think he would do it. He'd look at the script and he'd be like, why? Says, my Batman wouldn't do this. My Batman wouldn't be treated like this. You want to know why Michael Keaton said okay? Money. Keaton used to have, like, ethics and, you know, he would have walked away from the Batgirl movie if it was a sequel to his film during Batman Forever. Batman Forever wasn't really that bad of a movie, and he said no. The only reason he said yes to Batgirl is, 1, he aligns politically with most of them, and 2, he got paid. He doesn't have the same convictions anymore. He doesn't care. You know, he's an aging actor who just decided on being Batman again because the studio offered. I know a lot of people are like, even me at first, I was like, you know what? Michael Keaton is a good guy. He would never do a terrible Batman thing. Well, The Flash wasn't terrible, but Batgirl was. So, yay. His Aquaman stuff wasn't bad from what I hear, but apparently Ben Affleck's stuff is better. Not Keaton. Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck had a blast on set, filming new sequences that were not the same as with Michael Keaton, because Michael Keaton was there to invite Aquaman to the Justice League, because the Justice League didn't exist after The Flash. The Justice League still exists. We just don't know who's in it. Nobody knows. This is sad, okay? Nobody knows who the core Justice League is after The Flash. All we know is Ben Affleck as Batman is sticking around for something. We don't know what. Matt Reeves, the Batman, is doing its own thing, which, of course, we knew that was going to happen. I don't think anybody thought that... I hope nobody thought that we weren't going to get a Batman 2, because they announced it. Even before Warner Discovery was technically in power. They weren't empowered until August 1st, which is why a lot of this crazy stuff happened. I know a lot of people were like, well, they took over in June. It's like, yeah, sort of. But, I mean, most of the executive decisions didn't really happen until August. Like, they were meeting with executives. They were getting people to leave peacefully, you know, going over people's contracts and still going over the books. And then once everything was done, August rolled around and Armageddon happened in the Warner offices. But yeah, Keaton's stuff in Aquaman wasn't bad. You know, it's just like the test audiences saw it and they're like, "What? Why is Michael Keaton here? Why isn't Ben Affleck here? What's going on?" Nobody hated his performance. You know, he was pretty good. People said weird things about his performance in Batgirl. They didn't get it, for one. And also, it felt awkward because the chemistry between Michael Keaton and Leslie Grace was bad. It's, you know, you can think that how you want. I mean, Michael Keaton is the veteran actor and Leslie Grace is a newcomer, but it just didn't click. It's because the story was bad. If the story was better, then I think Leslie Grace, meaning like a Batman character, probably would have been handled better. But you need a talented writer. You don't hire the person who did the Harley Quinn movie when that movie sucked. It's like you want to bring your A game. You don't want to do... You got to understand that the D and C game is not going to pass anymore. That was Warner Media. Warner Media would greenlight whatever they wanted. Just for the sake of diversity, I kid you not. Doesn't matter if your movie sucks. Doesn't matter if your show sucks. As long as you check off those boxes, they would give you money. Even the money they didn't have to give you. Which now we're learning, Warner Brothers can't even release more than 2 movies this year, and they had to get rid of most of their Direct-to movies, like on DVD and Blu-ray. I mean, the company's been in trouble for a while. They just, I don't know, they've been ignoring it. I don't know why. I guess that now they're just like, you know what? We need to not be bleeding cash all the time. We have to make a profit. This is known as the movie business, and we're not really making any of the money anymore. So, yeah, they're going to scorch the earth for a while because they have a lot of stuff to fix. The old way isn't going to work. What I find hilarious, though, okay, the thing that I really was laughing my head off is the rumors were true that David Zaslav, or Zaslav, whatever his name is, was going to cancel the DCEU in favor of a new DC universe. Excuse me. But nobody saw coming, the leakers and the scoopers and the press, that he was going to cancel, excuse me, that he was going to cancel all of Walter Hamada's projects that were part of the next wave of DC movies that were going to feature female characters. Pardon me. Everybody thought that he was going to take an axe to what already existed, and now he's kind of trying to resurrect what existed to some extent. I mean, they're basically doing a soft reboot of the storyline for the Snyderverse characters. But they are essentially bringing back most of the DCEU actors. Exception probably Ezra and what's his face? I almost called him Victor Stone. Ray Fisher. Although I think that if I was the Z team, because of all the troublemakers that Ray Fisher didn't like are out of power, Walter Hamada's exit is this fall after Black Adam. Maybe now would be time to, if they want to do something with Ray Fisher. I mean, it's an all-new regime, as they call them on Twitter. You know, maybe they can get him in or something if they want to. But yeah, I've talked to some people, and I'm like, they're really big in saying the Snyderverse is back, and I'm just like one of those guys. Like, I don't think so. I think that just like DC Rebirth was the same characters you know and love in the comics, it wasn't the same storyline that was in the New 52. It was a soft reboot that brought back to continuity some things from pre-52 or pre-Flashpoint. It wasn't the New 52 and it wasn't pre-Flashpoint. It was DC Rebirth. It was the same characters, it was just different. So that's my mindset that they're going with in The Flash. The Flash had a very concrete ending, setting up a new universe with no Batman as other than an elderly Batman, and no Superman and Supergirl in his stead. And now, things are going to have to change, because that's not going to work. For one, Michael Keaton is royally ticked at David Zaslav, and it's not confirmed yet, but the male actor who was on a tirade I think he talked to Deadline and some other people about not liking the new CEO and, sticking up for the Batgirl cast and stuff like that. It wasn't J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons doesn't care because J.K. Simmons can get tons of roles. I think that even though he got paid based on the mannerisms of the man speaking, and I have known a lot of different interviews that Michael Keaton has done the past 30 years because I am a fan of Keaton's work, the way that this anonymous source is talking, very reminiscent to a Pittsburgh native who may or may not have played Batman. The mannerisms and the wording in the interview matches Keaton to just a T. Okay? And the fact that they're saying anonymous is because, well, I don't know if you guys know this, but the actors attached to Batgirl and Scooby-Doo and all these things that were given the yeet, they were given new contracts to do other Warner Brothers movies. So the reason why, if this was, I don't know, a couple years ago or something like that, and Keaton wasn't, hard up for films, because remember, he is coming off of a dumpster fire of a movie that he was in called Morbius, which his appearance in the movie made the movie worse. So he doesn't have a lot of prospects. So that's why he is the anonymous complainer. But go and read the interview where the anonymous male actor is in defense of the Batgirl movie, and then go back and read some things that Keaton has said about the RoboCop movie, and things that Keaton has said about Beetlejuice 2, and all this other stuff. And if you look at the wording of how the man speaks with this anonymous tipper, it doesn't take a detective to figure out it may be Michael Keaton who is upset with the movie and calling out the new executive, which is, if it's true, then he just burnt bridges with Warner Brothers, meaning he won't be back, which would suck. But now you've got Val Kilmer, who has throat cancer. Well, in remission from throat cancer. He wants to come back and play an older Batman. And you're like, how? But it's like, if Keaton is gone, theoretically, if he doesn't come back after The Flash, which a lot of people are like, I don't know why Flash would be a runoff. It's like, probably because he just poured kerosene all over the bridge between him and Warner Brothers over his complaints over Batgirl, even though he got paid to be in the movie. And he only had 10 minutes of scenes. But yeah, doused the bridge and set it on fire, and now he's kind of trying to figure out why the bridge is falling apart. I mean, but yeah. So Val Kilmer said recently that he wants to play Batman again somehow. And the interviewer's like, what? How? And Val Kilmer's like, what do you mean how? And it's just like, I'm just thinking, I agree with the interviewer because, I mean, they would need to give him a robot voice because, God bless him, but Val Kilmer can't speak anymore without the assistance of AI. Which maybe that would work in a Batman Beyond movie. I mean, at this point, I don't really care who plays older Batman. You can bring back, what's his name? Give me a minute. Val Kilmer. No George Clooney. Scratch that idea. Bale. You could do, you could tie Batman Beyond into the Bale Nolan films. No. The only way it would really work with Batman Beyond right now is if they did tie it into the 89 universe, because that would work. Keaton is familiar with the Batman Beyond stuff because fans have been pestering him for years. And Tim Burton would have a lot of fun with that. And Tim Burton is into a sci-fi phase in his life right now anyway. So, I mean, that would kind of be the perfect fit if you think about it. But, hopefully Warner Brothers gets smart and they're actually fans have been asking for Batman Beyond for 20 years. And what we gave them with the Batgirl movie was not that. The problem that I had with Warner Media, besides them being woke clowns, is they would listen to partially what the fans wanted. Yes, they brought back Michael Keaton to play Batman, an older Batman that was on the verge of retirement, and they gave him a young protege, although there's no training involved in the movie, and there was hardly ever any interaction between Batman and Batgirl. They had 1 or 2 scenes, and that was it. It was mostly just all Batgirl doing stuff, and you're aware that Batman's around, but he's too old to do anything. So, I mean, they got partially what fans wanted, but also they didn't do it. They didn't do the Batman Beyond thing. They essentially took a younger character that was going to meet Bruce Wayne, become his protege, and then take over for him. But that's not what the Batgirl story is. Batgirl, which Warner Media does not get, is not a replacement of Batman. She is an extension of the Bat family. Terry McGinnis is the replacement of Bruce Wayne, not Barbara Gordon. And that is why your movie was doomed to fail to begin with. Do you understand? Does everybody get that? That's Batman 101. Barbara Gordon is a key point to the Bat family. She is not the successor. Right? I mean, this is just common sense, but Hollywood is stupid. Okay? I don't know how these morons get jobs. Everybody says, you know, they're against the elite. Hollywood is the elite. Idiots. Hollywood is the elite. It's not Wall Street. It's Hollywood. It's always been Hollywood. They're the psychopaths that have been like on a culture war for the past 15 years. They're the bad guys. They always have been. And they put out crappy media that reflects their ideology. All the time. TV, video games now, movies, animation. This movie, the Batgirl movie, was just what it was. Hollywood fluff. It wasn't a Batman story. They put Batman in it, but it wasn't a good use of Batman. So yeah, it's great that it's dead. It is. Because now, provided that Keaton didn't screw the pooch with Warner Brothers, because apparently, this is just rumors, but going back to his time at Discovery, David is a very petty man. And if you burn bridges with him, you're done. And if Keaton really did screw up his relationship with Warner Brothers over the stupid Batgirl movie, we will never get a Batman Beyond movie starring Michael Keaton. It'll never happen. They'll go to the next guy. They'll get Val Kilmer and fit him with AI and have him be, you know, Bruce Wayne. Which would work because, I mean, Keaton is very old. But Keaton is in shape. Keaton looks good for his age. A ailing Batman is Val Kilmer. He wouldn't have to do much. He could just sit in the chair, and for flashbacks, they could get some young guy, and he could still actually use, They could still use Val Kilmer's voice for some stand-in for the Batman, you know, flashback stuff. And then just have Val Kilmer sit around in a chair yelling at Terry McGinnis. Val Kilmer's a great actor, you know. He could do that, you know. Just sit in a chair and yell at people. Yell at a computer screen. Because that's all old Batman really did. He walked around on a cane, sat at the back computer, and he yelled at Terry. Go back and watch the show. That's what he did. Accurate. So yeah, I hope that Michael hasn't burned bridges, but I don't know. I have a knot in the pit of my stomach like, uh-oh. But yeah, it's interesting that Twitter says that Michael Keaton would be back. I don't think so. I think that we're going to find out The Flash, which is amazing so far, unless they screw it up with reshoots, that it is a fantastic film, and it's too bad that Ezra went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because it actually would have been a great DC film. And then Ezra jumped the shark, or whatever the term is. Went Looney Tunes. But now, because they got help, that's all Hollywood expects, and then everything's all better. As soon as you get help, that's like your get out of jail free card. Do something wrong? Oh no, I hit this person with a chair. Oh, I'm in therapy. I get my movie now. And they're like, yeah, you know what? They did a lot of really bad stuff, but they went to therapy, so everything's forgiven. No consequences for actions, right? Accountability over entertainment? Doesn't exist. Just saying. You can do a lot of bad stuff, apparently, and if you're rich and a Hollywood elite, you go to therapy, it's all better. That's my stance on it. I think it's wrong, but yeah, I can't influence anybody on that. They should probably replace Ezra, but they won't now because, that's the get out of jail free card. If you do something bad, you go to therapy. It's true. They did the same thing with what's-his-face, the guy who shot and killed somebody during his movie. Baldwin something. He went to therapy, felt bad about it, supposedly, and everything's all better now. Except for people that really know him. They're like, but you still killed somebody. That's in the past. I went and I talked about my feelings. It's okay now. It's like, but what about the person who's dead? Shh. It's okay. But the person you shot. Okay. Moving on. So, I think now is a good time to bring up the Caped Crusader. So, we were talking about HBOMAX a little while ago. My honest-to-God thoughts about the Caped Crusader. Before, I was terrified. I wasn't terrified until Bruce Timm opened his mouth. Bruce Timm is a mixed pony. It's the nicest way of saying this. Bruce Timm acknowledges that Batman the Animated Series was a team effort that was magical because of the writers, the artists, the voice talent, the voice direction, the music, the narrative, everything. It wasn't just his creative process, and, he was a producer. So I respect that. He's not like a Bob Kane guy, ignoring all his, what do they call it, ghostwriters and stuff like that, and partners and contributors and stuff like that. He is a guy that acknowledges people, and I respect that. I think that's great. The thing that I worry about with Bruce Timm is when he's left alone to his own devices. And also, there is a key buzzword that he uses that is trouble. And I'm going to go over this so people understand. The problem with the Caped Crusader was not that it was green light. It was during the interview at DC Fandom, which was during the time of Warner Media was still in office, so there were crazies there. It was like a SJW heaven. When he was doing the interview, they brought up some aspects of the Batman that caused some raised eyebrows, because this term that Bruce Timm uses is always a problematic thing in his movies. That word is modernization. Bruce Timm, without really missing a beat when he was talking about what he wanted to do different with the Caped Crusader, is modernize it, which he couldn't do during the Fox show. Now, the problem is, with Bruce Timm, that term is problematic because he used that same explanation when he made the Harley Quinn versus Batman movie and the Killing Joke Batgirl storyline, which got kind of rapey. So what does Bruce Timm have in mind for the Caped Crusader? Could be anything. Could be race swapping, could be grooming, it could be lots of gratuitous roaring. You don't know. And J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves, when it comes to working with Bruce Timm, because they respect the man for making the animated series, that would make them yes men. So whatever Bruce wants, Bruce would get. And Bruce has kind of gone off the rails the way that Frank Miller has in terms of his narrative. Bruce puts a lot of really weird stuff in his Batman movies. And it wasn't just in Harley Quinn versus Batman or The Killing Joke. He also did a really bizarre Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman movie that was very R-rated and very interesting. And the movie had some hits and misses with it. But you could see that it had a lot of influence from things that Bruce Timm likes. Especially with certain aspects that we won't get into. So the fact that he wants to take a lot of the ideas that Fox said no to back in the day, when the Fox executive, who was a lady, by the way, who greenlighted Batman the Animated Series, Bruce came to her with a lot of ideas for Batman the Animated Series that she abruptly said no to because they were weird. And then Bruce used some of those ideas in his movies because, well, it wasn't on TV, so he could do whatever he wanted. Originally, The Caped Crusader was coming to streaming services, but a original green light of the film or show was for Cartoon Network. It was Cartoon Network and then HBOMAX. Now it's not coming to HBOMAX, which people are freaking out over because they're like, David is a jerk face for getting rid of the show. But if it goes back to what he said about wanting quality products, The Caped Crusader might not be what you think it is. Just food for thought. However, okay, this is a big one. If the movie or show or series gets put onto television, this is why this is good. Television has editors, and they have code of conduct, and they have requirements for airing your show. Bruce Timm does not do well without a filter. And you can say whatever you want, but history has proven this time and time again. The man can make awesome art and great ideas when he has checks and balances. The problem with streaming services, it's the Wild West with no law. They hardly have any requirements for streaming. That means that anything can be put into your show. But with television, it can't. Because you have to adhere to certain policies, which is very good for Bruce Timm. Now, any other director, if Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams were doing a collab, J.J. Abrams would put weird stuff like he did in his Spider-Man story and his Superman stuff or whatever. But it probably wouldn't be weirder than Bruce Timm Unhinged. And I'm not just talking about violence. I'm talking about all kinds of stuff. Bruce Timm did an interview recently before the show was canceled on HBO Max. This was 2 months ago. And he was talking about how he is using as a basis for his storyline modern DC comic books. So he's talking about the current DC comics. And you guys know what current DC comics is. Even though this is supposed to be a period piece, right? They want to inject it with things that should not be in a Batman story. Or at least Bruce does. Now, with HBO Max out of the equation, this is why I'm happy. With HBO Max out of the equation now, that means there's a possibility that a TV show or TV network could eat up, hopefully Cartoon Network, The Caped Crusader, and give us a quality product. If the show releases on a streaming service, it will be bat done. It will be guano. Because they're going to put things into that are going to bring the show down. It's not going to be what you wanted. It won't be a spiritual successor. Spiritual successor means good stories, good characters, good voice acting, great Batman product. And streaming services have shown that's not the case. The only exception is a Harley Quinn show that is made to be edgy and R-rated. It's basically like Harley Quinn became Deadpool of DC. That's the only reason it was a success. The Caped Crusader probably would not be able to do that because it's not a parody show. Do you get where I'm going with this? So, I know a lot of people were like, you have to talk about the cancellation of this. It's like, it's not canceled. They're shopping around for networks. Networks means TV. Okay? That's what networks means. And that's a good thing. Because Tim's track record with television is excellent. No complaints. Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited, Static Shock. Those things all speak for themselves. Okay? So, the Caped Crusader not being a part of HBO Max might be a blessing in disguise. We'll see. they have a really talented writer involved, but hopefully that this writer, who is very detective noir driven, says no to a lot of Bruce Timm's crazy ideas. Because that would actually pull down what is supposed to be a show set in a time period this time around. Like the 40s or the 50s. I believe it's like late 30s, early 40s. You know, so they can kind of get that round Gothic architecture again. But if they go and they start like race swapping and they start doing like a lot of today's issues in the 1940s, it's not going to fly because that stuff didn't exist in the 1940s. So if you're making a Batman show to reflect that time period, you can't interject it with things that are happening in the 2020s. Doesn't work. That wasn't what the core issue was back then. Prohibition was big, the war, things like that. Organized crime, all that kind of stuff. But not what's going on in the world today. That's a completely different issue that was not even in the back of anybody's mind back then. Right? But, you know, when it comes to period pieces, Hollywood does whatever they want. So, you know, we'll see what happens with that. Okay, what else did we want to talk about? We talked about Ben a little bit. We didn't talk about the Snyderverse. Nobody knows what's going on with that. Ah, I know what we can do. Black Adam. So what's going on with the world of Black Adam? There was a scooper a little while ago talking about Superman. And they made a very... Oh, how do I explain this? They made a very unique statement as a scoop, which turned out to be false. But I'll just, you know, let you guys know what's going on. So the scooper said that Superman finished filming stuff in August for Black Adam. That is false. Because the reshoots for Black Adam were in July. They didn't start doing, you know, the shooting in August and then finish in August. They did it in July, and it's already been done. They already did their stuff. And they're missing a key aspect of this scoop, that the Superman actor for Black Adam was actually on set, and a lady at the coffee shop met him and took pictures and talked about it in July. And then I think it was like 8 different scoopers back then kind of made a big deal about it, because it really was, because that actor was actually on the Warner lot at that time in July, and then they ended up being in the United Kingdom like a week later. So, but now they're saying all this stuff happened in August, but they're not doing reshoots for Black Adam right now. As far as I know, that all happened already. Because a lot of people didn't like the cameo being headless again. Originally. They always had Superman in the Black Adam movie. It's just they did the Shazam thing before, and audiences were like, boo! You know? So it was supposed to be a big reveal that Superman was going to appear at the end of Black Adam, which would lead into maybe a Black Adam versus Superman movie or Justice League versus Justice Society movie, because the big bad for the Black Adam movie changes some aspect of, you know, what the Justice League is expecting to come to Earth. It's not Darkseid, it's this other villain that's from the Black Adam books, which I'm not going to spoil who the name of the villain is, because you guys can go read some Black Adam New 52 books, and then you'll know who the villain is in the movie. The villain is in the first act, or the first 10 minutes of the movie of Black Adam, and then Black Adam and the Justice League Society face the villain in the final act of Black Adam. But I'm not going to say who the villain is, so you don't have spoilers with that. But a lot of people are like, well, they're just doing a whole BVS thing again where Black Adam and the Justice Society fight the whole movie. It's like, no, if they were doing like a BVS thing, it'd be Batman and Superman fought for 10 minutes, became BFFs because of Martha, and then, fought Quasimodo Doomsday. So this one will be a little bit different. They handled the pacing okay from what I hear. I don't think that Black Adam is going to be like this amazing blockbuster film. I'm sorry. I think that Warner Brothers is kind of like too scared to have Shazam and Black Adam released at the same time. personally. But also they are in a financial problem right now, even before they cut all the costs from the 38 things on HBO Max. Plus they're doing deep cuts at Cartoon Network and TNT, TBS, CNN. And what else were they going to do? Oh, yeah, DC, but they haven't started DC yet. You'll find out on Twitter when they start DC, because people are going to lose their minds, which people have been losing their minds over just the Batgirl movie. Imagine just half of DC Comics editorial, or like the crazy writers and artists that are insane, just like being let go overnight. That's going to be Christmas for me, because these people did not deserve work. They're insane. They treat their fans badly. They put out a terrible product. The DC writing staff has gotten so bad in their editorial that they literally are mirror imaging art in their books. Before, you would actually get fired for doing stuff like that. But in the Harley Quinn issue, where they talk about critical race theory, I kid you not, there is 4 different pages where they basically Photoshop the same background character and they just flip the image. Instead of drawing the character in different poses, they took the character and they copy and pasted them in different positions, tilting them a little bit, turning them from right to left, and they've just gone through and just completely, they're lazy now. There's no art anymore in the industry for DC Comics right now. They're just literally hiring people off the street who have no, basis or love for comics, and they're just literally letting them torch comics to the ground. And I've even found in Batman books where they're copying, pasting things, like different pictures. Batman's doing this one thinking pose, and then here he comes up in another panel where he's doing the same pose again. It's not new art. It's the same art. They just changed a little bit of the shading, or maybe they added an overlay effect or something, but it's the same pose that they introduced on a panel like at the beginning of the issue. They never did that before. That's terrible. You can't be like, yeah, go! It's the message of the book. It's like, but that's not what comics are about. Comics have always had political stuff in them, but it hasn't been the entire book. And that's what it is, the entire book. They opened up a Batman comic a little while ago with a lady on her cell phone, like, talking about, like, I don't know, some activist crap. I don't know. But it's like, this isn't a Batman book. How is this related to the story? And it wasn't. It was just the author doing a random self-insert crap. And it's like they're wondering why DC Comics is basically drowning. You did this. Good job. Parade. Yay. Praise yourself, morons. And then they turn around. They're like, why are comic books doing bad? Why are nobody buying my books? You said don't buy the books. You can't write articles with like, DC fans need to buy this, or they are whatever, ists and phobes. And then the following week, when your book fails, why aren't they buying our books? Because you went out of your way to tell them you didn't want their business. Why in the world would we support you? That doesn't make any sense. That's just idiocy. Why would people consume what you're selling if you tell them you don't want their business, or if you put things in their books that people don't want to support? I mean, you do know how consumerism works, right? I don't think they do. I really want to know if most of these DC pros ever took any type of business thing in college or high school, because I don't think they did. I really don't think they know. I think they know what their consumers want. They just do the opposite. And that's not good for business. So yeah, their heads are going to be spinning probably, if I had to guess, because I will admit, David Zaslav is kind of an evil mastermind. If I was really going to get people talking about me, I would fire everybody near Thanksgiving. Right before Christmas. I just clean slates. That would get people talking. That'd be amazing. It probably could happen, too. There's horror stories of things he did at Discovery, so... because, supposedly they're going to take December off, or they're gonna like not do a lot of big business in December. Imagine if half of DC's like troublemakers are gone before Thanksgiving. I'd find that hilarious. I wouldn't put it past him. Okay, so we did talk a little bit about DC. We talked about all kinds of fun stuff. Young Justice was another topic we had. What is going on with Young Justice? That is more misinformation. So let's break it down, okay? The Young Justice comic. Not comic. Well, there is a comic that precedes this show, but that's besides the point. Once again, Twitter has gotten a hold of some things, and they've spun it how they want, but they're wrong. Just so you know, Young Justice got renewed for Season 3 on the DCU app. Everybody remember the DCU app? That thing that had comic books, and it had things like Titans and Doom Patrol, and that's where Harley Quinn made its debut for Season 1, right? Okay. So, when HBOMAX became a thing, they actually had to contract, okay, Young Justice to appear for a new season on HBOMAX. It wasn't like, I know people want to believe that, okay, because the show was on the DCU app, it automatically gets integrated in HBOMAX. Wrong. They had to contract it. They literally made an agreement with Greg and some other people involved with the show, and they got the show greenlit on HBO Max for another season, right? For Season 4. And that's as far as the agreement went. There was no talk for Season 5. There was no contract for Season 5. And according to Greg, there is still no contract for Season 5. But the show did not get canceled. Technically, it didn't get renewed during Season 4. During the time that they were actually working on the show, HBO Max, even before David started yeeting things, there was no agreement between Warner and Young Justice. Even when Warner Media was still around. Now, I don't know why they did that. But that's what it was. So technically, in that regard, yeah, it's canceled, or could be. But the way that they're spinning it is that this was part of David's master evil plan to destroy more DC content on HBO Max. But the truth is, which, doesn't sound as exciting, is they just had no agreement for a Season 5. In fact, according to information I've heard, they actually wanted them to wrap up Season 4 as the climax to Young Justice. And they added a teaser for Season 5 when they had no discussions for renewal, no contract. So they cliffhangered the fans again when they were told, hey, maybe you should wrap this up. So now they make HBO Max and other people look like the bad guys, if the rumor's true, because they had the opportunity to finally, aside from the hanging plot point with Wally, to conclusively end Young Justice and do something else. But one thing that you'll learn about the Young Justice team is, well, they want to keep going for as long as possible, which, I mean, every TV show wants to have a long run for as long as they can, but I'm sorry, there's no real nice way to say this. The Young Justice that came back for Season 3 was not the same Young Justice show we had where Wally died. It didn't do a lot of the things that fans wanted. It echoed a lot of the stuff that was happening in modern DC Comics at the time. Which, I mean, yeah, I liked the Young Justice thing, but for me, the Young Justice show has been getting kind of stale. Like, it's just kind of like to be expected at this point. Like, there's no, like, real wow factor. Also, they keep doing my boy Nightwing dirty. Like, Nightwing still hasn't had a concrete arc. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening to the Bat family, but they've never really explored that. They're just kind of like throwing away characters to highlight certain things that I don't want to talk about. And that's what the focus of the show has been, and that's where their new audience came from. But a lot of people that were fans of Young Justice at the get-go did not really tune in to Young Justice when it went to the DCU app, when it came to HBO Max, and the last season where they yeeted Connor for a while. Like, the fan base has been dwindling for a while. It's not as strong as it used to be. Because the show just keeps getting worse and worse. And that's just, I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's not the same show that we got Season 1, Season 2. It doesn't have really that big, strong connection with its audience anymore. And I think that people at HBO Max and people at Warner Media, I think they knew that the magic was fading with the show. I'm not saying that HBO Max couldn't greenlight it for a Season 5. The show did decent on HBO Max this season. It's still being watched today. Maybe not as much as they're saying on Twitter that it is, but it's still doing pretty decent numbers. So based on that, if you go with, what David expects, David is a numbers man. David is a person that, in order for you to continue to get your show renewed, you have to do the numbers. And Young Justice did adequate. I would say they did good enough to get a Season 5. Now, if they get a Season 5, that is totally up to HBO Max, David's team, the Z team, as I like to call them, and some other stuff. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. There's no new information. There's no gloom and doom with that. It's just, it was a business decision before Warner Discovery. But right now, Twitter and social media and the journalists who all are united in their hate of Warner Discovery are using that as a way to basically egg people on. As like, hey, here's another thing that David did. Did you like Young Justice? He took that away from you. That's not the truth. The truth is the show was already going away, and people would have started up their petitions for it, even if Discovery hadn't really saved Warner Brothers. But the way that Warner Brothers was going, being $50 billion in debt, Warner Brothers wasn't going to exist much longer anyway. So, I mean, it's kind of good that Discovery got them, even though it doesn't look like it, because they're going to gut the company to survive and build up again. I keep telling you guys before, David is a CEO that came when Discovery was floundering. Discovery was doing terrible. He reformatted it. He got rid of useless executives and useless employees, cut spending, reinvested certain things, and within a couple years, Discovery became a Fortune 500 company. He's trying to bring the same energy and these same ideas that he used at Discovery for very successful results with a failing, dying industry. Okay? So there are going to be things that are going to turn your head. Like, you're going to hear things, you're going to see things you might not agree with. There might be things you will agree with. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that this stuff has to happen, or Warner Brothers is going the way of the dodo. It's going to become extinct. Because the idiots who were in power before kept spending, releasing flop after flop after flop, and, it just wasn't going to survive anymore. You just can't keep printing money and expecting, companies to keep running. You can't keep flailing around and just demand to exist, You have to profit at this industry. It's just, that's just normal. And they weren't profiting at all. So now they're going to try to just, theorizing with you guys and gals. My guess is they're going to license out a lot of their properties to places like Netflix and Hulu, things like that, where they will actually be getting money back for their investment. Just like they're doing with the Sandman thing. The Sandman really should have been on HBO Max. That's a DC character. But they, licensed it from DC and Warner, and they're doing that. And from what I hear, the Sandman show is really good. I'm not really big on the Sandman character, so I can't tell you edgewise, how that works with the comics, but the show is doing really great, so yay. Awesome. You're probably going to see a lot more of that stuff ending up on, other platforms. I don't think that every single DC content that is on HBO Max is going to stick around, especially when it becomes HBO Max Discovery. You'll find more DC stuff, like probably again on Netflix, Hulu, older movies, newer movies, things like that. Maybe Amazon, who knows? Because they're going to have to license out their stuff for a while because in-house they're not doing well. And even with all these massive cuts that they're doing, they still lost like $2 billion, and then they lost $20 billion, I believe. So their stock is kind of fluctuating right now because they made a lot of necessary changes, but at the same time, the panic from social media caused like their investors to freak out when the people on Twitter have no idea what's going on anyway. They just are upset because things that they say they love, which they never watch, were taken away from them. But you can't just have things on the shelf just for you to be able to go and pick them up when you want to. Like, if you really love this stuff, you have to support it, like, 24/7. If Sesame Street was on HBO Max with all these seasons from, like, its get-go until today, then people really should have been watching Sesame Street, like, all the way through. And I know you're going to say, well, nobody has time for that. Exactly. Why would a company pay money to have this archive of all this stuff that nobody's watching? The Turner stuff that they brought over from like TNT and TBS, like I'm talking like the old black and white movies, are doing better numbers than modern stuff. That should make you think. So you actually have the people that are bailing out HBO Max are people in their golden years watching Turner Classic Movie stuff on HBO Max. It's not young people. Young people aren't really making the Harley Quinn show. People just make a dent in HBO Max like revenue, just a sliver. Not enough for it to dominate and like have shows exactly like that. Infinity Train, which I've heard good things about, is just a portion of HBO Max viewership. So, I mean, you really have to look at the grand scheme of, like, what Warner Brothers is. Warner Brothers isn't just DC Comics. They own DC Comics, but Warner is a vast company with so many different aspects to it. Okay? Like, the DC part that we love is just a small cog in the wheel of a bigger corporate machine. And, things are going to be changing with that, for both the good and bad. And I don't know when the hammer's going to come down. I have no idea. I would guess November, because they're still going to be cleaning up the DC film stuff for a while. And DC is going to start like theorizing like what their next line of comic books is going to be over the next 6 months, like starting in October anyway. It's when they're going to start. The fall is usually when they start building up what their big summer season, fall season of next year is going to be. So if they're going to make drastic changes for DC Comics, like the Discovery people, then they're going to have to hit DC Comics before they can start charting the next course. Because if they take them out now, like in the fall, then they have time to bring in people to make a new summer line of stories and things like that. Maybe even spring, to, take up the vacuum from what a bunch of these weirdos have done. So it is possible. Because they're just going to continue to lose stuff. Like, they're becoming less and less relevant, which is probably infuriating David. Like, I wasn't joking when I said I would, give him a copy of Harley Quinn and Young Justice Dark Crisis, because both those books are garbage. I think that's all I would need in order to make the man, like, go on a warpath, fly from New York City to, California and body Jim Lee. I think that's all it would be needed to make that man just like lose it, because he probably doesn't have any idea. Honestly, he's still going over all the DC films and television and things like that. They haven't even started at Warner Animation yet. The Scooby-Doo thing is just the appetizer. There's tons of Warner animated stuff they have to get rid of yet. I believe they finally got rid of that Damien Christmas Carol thing, or that's going to end up on Cartoon Network or something. There was a couple like animated Batman movies that got canceled that weren't all that interesting. Although I was kind of looking forward to the My Little Batman thing because it sounded like a cute premise, but that'll probably show up on Cartoon Network. Like, Cartoon Network is not going to be gone from the equation. I've had a lot of interesting DMs where people are telling me, like, Cartoon Network is going to die, David's going to chop it up. It's like, first, slow down. Second, you know that Cartoon Network just celebrated its 30th anniversary, and Cartoon Network is a decent revenue stream for Warner Brothers, correct? And they didn't know this. They're like, well, I don't really watch TV. It's like, well, even if you don't watch cable, there's still millions of people around the U.S., like 10s, 30, 40, 50 millions of people that are still watching Cartoon Network on a daily basis. So if they weren't, then Cartoon Network would have disappeared a long time ago. Not everybody has cut the cord, so to speak, from cable. A lot of us have cut the cord. I went to streaming services. I'll never go back to cable because I cannot get the entertainment that I want on cable. I like streaming services because I can binge the content I want when I want it. Right now I'm watching Gundam Seed Destiny on Funimation or Hulu or something. I don't know. Somewhere. And when I'm able to watch the Gundam Seed Destiny episodes when I want. Whether I watch it with dinner, whether I watch it after this podcast, which, yeah, probably going to happen. I'm kind of addicted to it, so don't spoil it. But I'm just using that as an example. Like, a lot of people, especially young people, the type of entertainment they want to watch isn't on TV. And when it is on TV, they only give you one episode. I'm sorry, but for me, the days of waiting for a new episode every day are over. I don't like that anymore. I like being able to watch the stuff when I want. I'm kind of selfish in that regard. I don't have the patience of, like, you know, if Batman animated series released today where they just had one episode a week, I would go crazy with withdrawal. You know, I'd probably like record DVR like a bunch of episodes and sit there like shaking in a corner watching them over and over, going like, say 4 episodes or something that came out previously in, you know, every day leading up to when the next episode comes out. Like, because I would need my fix, man, you know? And, yeah, it would drive me crazy. But with streaming services, even if you're watching a show that's a simulcast thing, there are other shows that you can watch in between while you're waiting. Whereas with TV, you have to schedule time. Like, TV, new episodes come out, and you either DVR your thing. I don't know if kids today still DVR or whatever, but you'd have to record on your cable box thingy and then watch it back when you had time. Whereas if you were watching, say, the Harley Quinn show, then in the meantime, you could go through and you could binge watch Young Justice or Batman Brave and the Bold or whatever. You know, there's something there for you on the streaming service. And as creepy as this sounds, just like Google, your streaming services will actually set up a algorithm based on your likes and interests and recommend things for you to watch. Case in point, I am a rom-com guy, right, for anime. So when I'm watching like Girlfriend or something like that, they're going to recommend another show for me to watch that's in that category. And then I may actually like that show, so then I'll go watch that show. And then after I finish that show, they'll recommend something else. So it's like they have that like freaky AI system that adheres to your tastes. Cable doesn't do that. Cable says, hey, this is when something's coming out. You can either schedule time to watch it or don't. And then feel bad because you're going to have people at work spoil the show for you. That's what cable and TV is like. But at the same time, a lot of these people who have been gone from cable don't realize that cable is still an industry that has a lot of revenue still. If it didn't, then cable would have disappeared like many years ago. So Cartoon Network is still a force to be reckoned with, and it's not going away this year or next year. I would say Cartoon Network will finally disappear in probably 5 years. Maybe. But by that point, they'll probably have a Cartoon Network streaming service. So will Cartoon Network really be gone, or will the platform change? I don't know. But I don't think it's disappearing anytime soon, and I don't think David is going to get rid of Adult Swim. Adult Swim has a decent revenue source, and it has like a very big fan base that have kept Adult Swim on the air numerous times. I was one of the campaigners to get it back on the air. I enjoyed doing it, even though I wasn't like a big watcher of Adult Swim and Toonami anymore. So those aren't going anywhere because what I like about Cartoon Network is it has content for kids, got content for teens, and it's got content for adults. So, animation is for everybody. So, that's, yeah. If you are paying attention to people on Twitter that are, trying to fearmonger you that Cartoon Network is going to go away and the big bad devil man, Zaslav, is going to get rid of it, no. Too soon. There'd be no reason to, because Teen Titans Go makes that a very profitable network. I know you don't want to hear that, but there's a reason why Teen Titans Go hasn't been canceled. It's true. Teen Titans Go is moneymaker for that network. Honest to God. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's true. They've had multiple crossovers. They've made a lot of money, and they're still there. And there's no sign of cancellation. There isn't. There's never once been an article, because people would be jumping up and down because they hate that show. It gets renewed every year. Not just renewed for one season. It usually gets renewed for 2. And it gets movies. Oh my gosh. I think we have kind of explained the Warner Brothers Discovery debt thing. I really don't want to. We talked about how David can't be fired because he basically is Bruce Wayne. When the company went public, he bought all the shares, blah, blah, blah. He replaced all the executives with his people, so he's there until he decides to leave. Some people are saying, oh, he's going to make the company profitable and sell it off. But they're also forgetting that David is also a fan of superheroes. Like, he's a fan of the Trinity. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. David was a kid and teen once. He was around during the time of the Super Friends and the Adam West Show and things like that, and George Reeves' Superman. So, and the Wonder Woman show from the 70s. So, he wants to see these characters do well, and Warner Media wasn't doing these characters justice. So, he just wants to prop up these heroes on film over the next 10 years, and then maybe he'll retire, or who knows. But it's kind of it's cool that a fan has actually come to help, sort of, because, people weren't really doing much with it. We talked about Gotham Knights Harley. We talked about the Cape Crusader. We talked about Aquaman being delayed. I don't really want to talk about Shazam because the only thing that we had to talk about with Shazam is the fact that they're going to have cameos of Ben Affleck and Ezra and Gal Gadot and stuff like that. But the Ben and Ezra cameos are stock footage. So you'll literally see Ben Affleck in the Shazam movie, but it will be just a stock footage thing. And it's just when he's talking about Batman and the Justice League in general. But Gal Gadot is actually in the movie. So yay. We haven't talked about the Batman 2 yet, have we? That's kind of just common sense, though. I don't know why people were freaking out over this. Even though the Batman didn't do the numbers, that people thought it was going to, it still did pretty well, right? But you had all these people like, oh my gosh, the Batman isn't going to happen now that Ben Affleck's back. It's like, back up the crazy train. That was never going to happen. And did you guys see the articles that the crazy journalists, the film journalists, were writing to clickbait you guys to go read? They were writing things like, what was that title? Oh, yeah, Robert Pattinson to step down from the Batman role. And then you go and you read the article and it says, Robert Pattinson to step away from the Batman cowl after his trilogy. And it's just like, oh my gosh, we've fallen so far as a society. And you had all these people on Twitter freaking out, oh my gosh, they're getting rid of Robert Pattinson and Black Jim Gordon and stuff like that. And it's like, no, they're not doing that. You didn't read the whole article. You got clickbaited, and then you made an emotional response. which is exactly what they wanted you to do. Also, you gave them clicks, which is funny because they say, we don't like YouTubers because YouTubers generate hate clicks. It's like, have you seen all the articles that journalists have done? And I'll use an example. When the Charlie's Angel movie came out that was panned because it sucked, right? You had articles when the movie was developed that said that this wouldn't be your Charlie's Angels. These Charlie's Angels are not for you to gawk at. So take that, male gaze. And you had women saying that this was going to be a strong feminist vehicle, blah, 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 blah. And then when the movie came out and the movie started to do badly, even though they had articles saying they didn't want men to go see their movie, then they write articles saying, how dare men not support this feminist movie? And then you have stars say things like, how dare men not support this because they hate feminists? And then they make another article like, oh my gosh, why is our movie doing so bad because our movie is about this agenda? And they go round in a circle, like, and that I believe it's called circle jerking or something like that. They start with saying, aha, and then they tell you, okay, here's the controversial casting, here's what we're going to put in the movie. Then they go another part of the circle where they tell you where the movie's coming out and that they don't want a certain demographic of people to go. Then when they get closer to the release, they get worried about projections of how badly their movie's going to do. Then they start attacking people. Then they do an article saying how people are review bombing their movie. Then after the movie comes out, after the first week, they complain that men aren't attending their movie. Then they do another article the following week afterwards where they say that the movie did bad because of toxic fandom. Then after the third week, then they say, how could we have made this movie better? And then the fourth one, they blame the fans again for not being woke enough or whatever. So they accuse YouTubers of generating hate clicks for content. And yet, if you go and you watch these places like Deadline and Screen Rant and comicbook.com, they follow the same circle. Every single movie that comes out, they do the same thing. They praise the movie, they praise what's in the movie, not the story of the movie. They praise the actors, their color, or their gender, and then they praise the director, if the director is somebody of, like, you know, representation. They don't talk about anything about the movie. And then when they have a successful movie come out, like the Top Gun Maverick movie, which broke Avengers numbers, I believe, they attack the movie for not being diverse enough, but that's all they can do about the movie because the movie was successful because it was a good movie. It was a good story. It was a good franchise. And they're losing their minds when it succeeded because they actually tried to make the movie fail. Even though the movie was just, you know, a beast in itself. But yeah, it's always interesting to me that modern journalists, like, they attack YouTubers on their Twitter all the time. But if you actually go and you read their articles, they're doing it even worse than the YouTubers. It's just, their audience is just too stupid to not notice it. Because, I mean, they're literally following the same circle pattern. When I walked away from game journalism, we started doing the same thing. Like, I actually quit a publication I was working for because they had an attack article for a Japanese game developer that they begged and begged and begged and begged for 6 months to do the interview. And then when they did the interview, they razzed the guy. And just so you know, in Japan, that is seen as like an attack, and that is very disrespectful. Like, that is wrong. But this young hotshot female journalist who got to do the interview, even though I was there at the company for the longest time, I was one of the people involved to get the person to come to our company. She got to do the interview. She didn't even know who the guy was. She said very offensive things, and it made our company look bad. That person does very few game interviews this day, not outside of Japan. And it just, you know, they were following the same stuff. So when I saw the writing on the wall in the game industry, when I saw the game industry getting bad, I walked. Because it's like, I don't want to be the sane voice of reason in like a mountain of crazy people. You know, I'm going to get drowned out by all these crazy voices. I'm not going to risk my health, my sanity to try to be the good guy in a madhouse. No, thank you. It's like, I'll go build up my YouTube brand or something else, which is exactly what I did. I didn't want to be connected to that. I still don't want to. Game journalism is even more crazy now, you know? And film critics are the same. But what I believe is going to happen is if David continues down this route that he's doing, Hollywood is terrified of him. And eventually, a lot of these journalists that make these type of articles, like that circle that I described to you guys, they're not going to have that fuel anymore because the movies aren't going to represent that stuff anymore. Then they're going to have to go back to what they did 10 years ago where they demand things to be in movies and they be in their little echo chamber where they can't hurt anybody. But it's when Hollywood started to listen to these crazy journalists, that's when the film industry started to die. Especially when they do this stuff where they say, this is the first time that this person of color has ever been in a movie, and it's like just ignoring all the stuff that happened in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. Especially when it wasn't a big deal to actually have a high-profile, person of color as an actor in a role. And back then, if you would have gone, wow, it's really empowering that you're in this movie because of who you are, that person would look at you and be like, what do you mean who I am? I'm an actor. I got this part because I worked hard, not because of how I look. But now it's gone reverse, And that, to me, that's heartbreaking. That doesn't seem like that's a step forward. That feels like that's like several giant leaps backward. You know what I mean? I think people would be shocked if you had an interview with somebody today and they didn't talk about who they are as a person rather than who they are as an actor. Like, I think that would actually make all kinds of headlines, and it would not be very good for that actor, even though I would praise that actor. It'd be like, that actor has common sense. I'm going to follow that actor. That person's smart. But, yeah, let's address the Batman thing because I think that's kind of funny. So, everybody was freaking out over the Batman 2 because Ben Affleck was back and Michael Keaton was being phased out. Or rather, yeah, he was being phased out because they erased him from Aquaman. They erased him from... His Batgirl movie was erased. And then they were talking about getting rid of him in The Flash, but of course that didn't happen because The Flash movie is really good with Michael Keaton in it. So you had all these people. First, it was the scoopers that were getting scared, and they're like, oh my gosh, the Matt Reeves Batman movie isn't going to happen because Zaslav hates fun and he's going to get rid of everything. And then when these Deadline people and Screen Rant and all these other like publications or trades, I don't even like calling them publications, but when these other trades saw the scoopers, they made their articles then saying, oh my gosh, this probably isn't going to happen because David is the bad guy and he's going to get rid of everything that we love. And they were doing that for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And even though when Discovery came into power in June and they announced that the Batman movie was happening and even talked about the Batman sequel in the Discovery business call meeting thing that I did a transcript of on Twitter. What was it? Almost 2 months ago or something like that. They announced that they were still very much doing the Matt Reeves thing. They were just doing other stuff in between. They wanted a 10-year plan with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in the front instead of Warner Media's thing of Supergirl, Batgirl, and Wonder Woman at the front of DC films for the next decade or decade half. But you had all these people fear-mongering and saying that Matt Reeves' Batman movie isn't going to happen because A, B, C, and D, which was all goofy talk. And so when they announced again that the Batman 2 was happening and that they're working on a script, it's like I didn't really feel like reporting on it because it just seems dumb to talk about because they already said on numerous occasions, that it's happening. And now if they say that the movie's delayed or something, you're going to have people on Twitter telling you, oh my gosh, the Batman 2 has been canceled and here's why. And no, that's not true. So, I mean, the Batman movie is still happening. It's always been happening. It's never been it shouldn't have been a doubt in anybody's mind. I'm not going to shame anybody of you guys if you were worried about that. I know there was a lot of misinformation from trades and stuff like that. So, no, that's totally understandable. But in general, people shouldn't have been freaking out over something like that because they weren't going to get rid of it. Matt Reeves has a very good contract with Warner Brothers. He set out to do a trilogy. He signed for a trilogy. And he still has 2 other movies to make. Plus, he has that agreement to do some type of streaming show, which the budget was approved, so he just needs to start working on the show whenever he gets around to it. I don't know when he's going to get around to it, but it'll probably happen. I would expect to see the Penguin or the Arkham show probably by 2025, maybe earlier. But, you know, people, sometimes you just need to kind of slow down a little bit when all this news comes at you during the Vicky Vale show. So, let's see. Was there anything else we needed to talk about? Did I explain everything pretty well tonight? Was that pretty understandable, or did I confuse you guys? A senior citizen can't do the things Batman can do. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Which of the TV channels that WB Discovery own are going to keep? Cartoon Network or Discovery Family? Cartoon Network is going to be fine. Discovery is going to be fine. The lead up for the Batman 2 is going to be torture. I'm not patient. Yeah, it's going to take a while. Affleck is Batman. He should get a movie. I think that every actor that plays Batman should get their own solo movie. Whether or not Ben Affleck does that, I don't know. But I think everybody should be happy that he's going to stick around for cameo roles. I think that's a win for us because before he said he was done. And he was very happy on set for Aquaman. He is very happy to show up for the Flash reshoot stuff. And, you know, Happy Ben means more cool Batman stuff for us because he doesn't hate Batman. He hated the Justice League reshoots, which basically, it wasn't a reshoot. It was a redo of the entire movie. What? Reshoot is just like maybe 10, 15 minutes of like fixing stuff that didn't work. They literally reshot the entire film and filled it with stuff that was stupid. And Ben hated that. But he's never said anything bad about BVS. He's never said anything bad about Suicide Squad. David Ayer's thing. He had fun on set with that. And he came back and he did some little photography for Zack for Snyder Cut. You know? So, I mean, the stuff we hear on set about him on Aquaman, he had a blast. He enjoyed The Flash. Originally, The Flash was his graceful exit, but that's all changed now. So, would I love Ben to get a movie? Yeah. But I think people can stop like thinking that Ben's going to get some HBOMAX thing because the budget will not allow for that. And also, Zaslav would want to use Ben in a theatrical sense because he views movie theaters, because of what happened with Top Gun, as a very profitable industry again. Whereas Walter Hamada was abandoning theaters and putting his focus on HBO Max. That's why Batgirl was made as a streaming movie. And Blue Beetle started as a streaming movie, but Blue Beetle, which was smart, changed to theatrical. And so they were able to salvage their movie. But Batgirl looked like crap. There's no way you could have put that in theaters. And the story was terrible. So, how did Teen Titans Go and Snyderverse crossover episode get approved? I don't know that, actually. I've been asking about that. Because Zack Snyder is a guy that doesn't like making fun of himself, normally. So, I thought that he wouldn't be involved with that, but he actually voiced himself making fun of his movie. And I think that takes a lot of guts, and that's pretty cool when directors do that kind of meta stuff. I mean, you guys know how I feel about Zack Snyder to some extent. I'm not a super fan. I am very critical. But I respect that he did that. Because, you know, I like directors that don't take themselves and their work too seriously. Because, I mean, art is subjective, right? So, the fact that he is able to laugh at some of the crazy stuff involved with his, his movies, it's pretty cool. And I think James Gunn also did that as well. So, I respect that. I really do. I don't know how they did it, though. Hard to judge Batgirl when no one has seen it. I have talked to various people that have seen the test screenings who live in California, and they told me in intricate detail everything that happened. And I have a transcript of things. So if I wanted to, I could make a full video discussing the plot, but I hate the movie from how it was explained to me. I hate what happened to Keaton. I don't like what happened to the Firefly character or Killer Moth. The Jim Gordon stuff was good. The Batgirl Jim Gordon stuff was good. The Batgirl Batman stuff was terrible. So I don't like talking about it more than I can because it fills me with rage. So, how do you feel about the gameplay for Gotham Knights, especially with this new Nightwing gameplay that was released? It's not Arkham, but dodging instead of countering doesn't look too bad. I mean, the countering stuff, it's very Spider-Man-like. It's not bad, but I'm going to miss the countering. I'm not going to lie. I'm still mad that Warner Media canceled like so many Arkham spin-offs we could have had because we would have been eating well for Arkham stuff, and I always saw that the Arkham games were going to end up like Assassin's Creed anyway. You know, that was the plan. That was something that the Rocksteady joked about in Arkham City when I interviewed them in California at E3. And I wished them well, and I said they could dethrone Assassin's Creed. Because I said, you have an advantage that they don't. And they're like, what's that? He says, you have Batman. They just have a hooded assassin that they have to change every game. You literally have Batman that you turned into basically a cooler version than Ezio. So, you know, and they laughed. So, as much as he criticizes Snyder, but Shazam sucks. K-Wing, I'm working right. Sorry I'm missing the stream. I'll watch it in the morning while I play COD. Oh, wow, you're going to listen to this back? Oof. It's kind of long, my friend. Captain Beastwinger, scroll up to see my comment. Where are you, Beastwinger? If Gotham Knights doesn't meet Discovery expectations, what will happen to W Games and W Montreal? That's a conversation for us to have in 2023. No one knows. Where are you, Beastwinger? He wouldn't have to suit up either. Who wouldn't have to suit up? I said it earlier, K-Wing, but honestly, Clooney deserves a second chance. No! For Batman Beyond, he was decent as Bruce Wayne, and with the right writing and directing, he would be good. The problem with that is audiences seeing him. Let me just explain this to you, Beastwinger. The reason why Batman Beyond would work with Keaton or Clooney, or excuse me, Keaton or at the very least Val Kilmer, is they're coming from Batman films that didn't suck. People have a fondness for those characters. If George Clooney, who is a Warner Brothers actor, got approached to do Batman Beyond and he said yes, then audiences would always remember where his Batman came from in the Batman Beyond universe. Because you know some yuppie director would connect it to his stint as Batman. That is why George Clooney cannot be Batman Beyond. It's petty, it's dumb, but doesn't work. Okay? Okay. I'm not sure if you addressed it, but wasn't Aquaman 2 originally supposed to be before The Flash? Before all the pushbacks? Or was Aquaman supposed to be after The Flash and changing the timeline? The timeline is so convoluted with DC films that even I don't know anymore. The Flash, you have to remember, was supposed to come out so many different times over the past, 5-6 years? And they've gone through so many directors, so many scripts. It was going to be Flashpoint at one point with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. It was going to be a Flash origin movie. It was going to be Flash versus a Reverse Flash. It was going to be a Flash time-traveling comedy with them popping up into different aspects of the multiverse as a joke. And then it became super serious. And then it became the movie that we have now. How I understand it is Aquaman always was supposed to precede The Flash and introduce the new timeline. like, or expand the new timeline after the Flash. And that was Hamada's plan, because Hamada was embracing the multiverse because he was trying to clean up his mess from Justice League. And also, I mean, he wasn't... You have to understand that Warner Media, even though they were a bad company, they didn't want to lose Ben Affleck because he was an Oscar-winning actor. Ben Affleck was fed up with DC films. The treatment that happened on set, the fact that people didn't walk off when he wanted them to, the fact that the movie was terrible, and basically they shot... they did... What was it? Snyder's film, and then essentially they were called back not long after Snyder wrapped filming, and they had to reshoot everything in worse conditions for, what's his name, Whedon. And it was terrible. It was a terrible experience, and all that other stuff. The Suicide Squad, the filming for that movie happened before Justice League. So Ben was still, very much in love with the role. He liked doing the cameos. He was up for the cameos, appearing in different movies like Wonder Woman and Aquaman and all this other stuff. He was down for that stuff. Afterwards, when his movie was getting scrapped, or rather, retooled and things like that, and he officially announced his retirement on Jimmy Kimmel, he was done with DC films, and they made him hate one of his favorite comic book characters. Come full circle all these years later, Ben is in a happy place. Ben is, I wouldn't say in love with his character again, but he has a respect for Batman. He has grown for more, like recently. So he is down for keeping the door open for more Batman-related projects with DC. That's good. In terms of continuity, we don't know what's going to happen. It could be a whole new bag with Aquaman. The new Flash ending could be completely different. It might be a weird thing where maybe... I'm just spitballing. I don't think they're going to do it. But maybe they would have Jeffrey Dean Morgan play like a version that Flash meets, and he gives a letter to Batman or something like that. It's like a quick little cameo thing. Fans would be happy to see like crazy Batman, and or it could be a different ending altogether where Barry just comes back to seeing Bruce again, because the movie starts with Ben Affleck, Ezra, Gal Gadot, and Alfred, and then the rest of the movie is Michael Keaton, Ezra, the villain Zod, Zod's girlfriend, and then Michael Keaton, Supergirl, Zod, and then the final arc was supposed to be Michael Keaton and Supergirl issuing in a new age of superheroes, and that's the end of the movie. So now it's going to be the Ben Affleck part at the beginning, Michael Keaton for the second half and into the third, and then the finale will have something to do with Ben Affleck. Probably what they're going to do, which would be very cost effective, is to shoot the Batcave scene again and then just have it be like Barry never left, right? So Barry is there with Wonder Bat moment between Bruce and Diana, and Alfred's there, and then Barry leaves to go mess with time travel, even Bruce tells him not to. And then the end of the movie would probably have Ben Affleck sitting in his chair and Ezra talking to him and saying something, and then the movie will end. Like, I don't really see them doing a big extravagant thing for the ending now. I think it's just going to come full circle. He's going to have his time-traveling movie thing, his multiversal hop, and then instead of what the original ending was, which was only about like maybe 10 minutes, they're going to have a scene probably with Ben Affleck back in the Batcave, because that's really easy to do. They haven't torn down the Batcave set or anything, because they were going to reuse it somewhat for Keaton. So it just makes sense to be like, here, Ben, be here on the Batcave set again. Or they could make a room and make it look like the Batcave, and there you go. I don't see them going crazy with the ending. Just something simple, reaffirming that Ben is still Batman to the audiences. I don't think for much longer, Alien. Shame they fumbled the bag with Superman. They canceled his Batman script because he mirrors Snyder's vision, and they were trying to shy away from them. Yeah, pretty much. the reason why they got rid of Ben Affleck's Batman script is because they didn't want it to do with the Snyder characters. And it wasn't the Arkham Asylum movie that Ben originally was doing. It was, but I already talked about Ben Affleck's like script, like in detail, which was really cool. So it was like what Matt Reeves said. It was kind of like a James Bond type movie, a lot of action, a lot of suspense and thrills and stuff like that. But it was very different than the movie that we got from Matt Reeves. So, you know, I would have liked to see that Deathstroke versus Ben Affleck fight and the Batgirl stuff, but you know, Warner Brothers just wanted them to focus probably on the whole Arkham thing. What do you think of James Gunn directing the Justice League? That's a rumor, isn't it? Can you please tell us about the sum up of the cringe Batgirl scenes? I want to know what we were saved from. Ay vey. How do I explain this? So there's 5 scenes with Keaton, right? And they didn't necessarily know what the right order for these scenes would be. One of the things they shot, Batgirl is super fan of Batman. And another scene, she hates him. So there's different ways of her meeting Michael Keaton. One of the ways she meets Michael Keaton, he's really old, and she stumbles into kind of like this train station type thing, like Matt Reeves, that leads to where Batman is. And Batman's retired, and he doesn't appreciate some faker going around. There's flashback scenes, which are handled really nice. And, you know, you can see that Barbara has this big respect for Batman early on. And then her mother dies. But she still has kind of like this fascination with Batman. He does something that is totally in character to him, but the female writer made it look like Batman is mansplaining and being misogynistic to Batgirl, but he's just being Batman. He shows up when she is dressed as him and running around Gotham, and he basically tells her to stop using his symbol and to, you know, you can't do this kind of stuff. Hang up the cape. And he shows up in costume, and he does his Keaton thing, which, that was great. But the way that they film it, it almost makes it look like Batman is a jerk. Or Batman is, you know, toxic male. And that's what they were going for. Even though Keaton was there, and, you know, he's literally there in the suit, and it's a good sequence. But the way that they film it and the emotional and the music that they were going to play, it was going to be a bad scene, even though the acted scene wasn't bad. Basically, it was a girl power trip movie, and the male characters are idiots, basically. If you saw the Harley Quinn movie, then you know where they're going with the male characters, even Batman. That's why the movie can't be salvaged. It's garbage. Like, with the current regime of Warner Brothers Discovery, it's not a movie that's going to work. It's not a quality product. Let's see if I can remember some other sequences. He had a scene where he talked to, supposedly, in one of the screenings, he spoke to the actress who played Black Canary about something ninjas or what was the name of it? The League of Shadows or something. And then another sequence, he shows up and he tells Batgirl, good job. And they, like, glide off somewhere. It's not really a finished VFX scene, so it looks kind of cheesy. And also, Batman's costume looks really bad, like on film. His costume looked really good in The Flash. It doesn't look very good in the Batgirl movie. It looks like it's not up to the same quality of his 89 and 92 suit. It just, for the Batgirl film, it didn't look good. The Flash stuff, it's going to look really good. It's in the same wheelhouse as his costume, but not quite. I mean, Batgirl's suit looks worse in comparison until you see her final suit, but it looks like a really cheap rubber suit, and Keaton looks weird in it. I will say that much. There's another sequence that showed up in one of the test screenings where Batman and Batgirl work together, fighting somebody, and that scene was okay, but they didn't know if they were going to keep it because they were worried that Keaton outshined Leslie Grace in the scene, So it was probably going to end up on the chopping room floor. So the only scenes they were going to keep was where Batman was going to show up in a flashback, talking to, Jim Gordon with red hair. They were going to keep the scene where he shows up and tells Batgirl to quit. And they were going to show a scene with him either meeting her as Bruce Wayne and telling him he's Batman, or the sequence where they basically cape glide for the end of the movie, like off a gargoyle. So he had like 5 scenes, but they were going to cut at least 2 because it didn't work with the narrative they were trying to tell. Like I said, it's terrible. Does that make sense? Most of the audiences that saw the movie called it a bad TV pilot. I don't want to talk about She-Hulk. Firefly's motivation wasn't bad. It's just the framing that they did for the character wasn't good. I hope you've been doing well. Any thoughts from the recent Gotham Knights boss fight with Harley? Boss fight looks cool. I don't like Harley's design. Keaton Batman sounds like cringe and Batgirl, just like CW. Yep. Sounds accurate to me. Not really. Because in the animated series show, they frame why Batman doesn't want Batgirl, like in terms of the storyline, to be Batgirl. In this movie, they just have Keaton show up and yell at Batgirl, or rather, tell her to hang up the cape and cowl, and they don't give him any lead-up scene to it. He just randomly shows up in an alleyway and scares her, and, tells her to quit. And, this was her hero, and then, but you have to have lead-ups to explain why characters are doing things, and they really didn't. They just had characters randomly appear because they were trying to make this a movie about Batgirl, even though it should have been a movie about Batgirl and Batman, because Batman played a pivotal role in Batgirl Year One. He didn't play a big role in Burnside. That's why I said they should have done a Shadow of the Bat thing first, which a Shadow of the Bat movie with Batman introducing Batgirl, and then giving Batgirl her own spin-off movie at a later time. Having her get her own movie first and still having Batman in that world didn't work, because there wouldn't have been enough Batman in the movie to, frame the plot. Unless you're trying to paint Batman as a villain, which it looked like the movie was trying to do. Yeah, James Gunn directing Justice League is a rumor. It's probably not true. Whatever happened to the writing? The lady who wrote the script is a terrible writer. But she was a bad writer when she wrote the Harley Quinn movie. What did you guys expect? Did you expect like grade A perfection from a person who can't write? She always writes female power trip movies. What did people expect? As soon as I knew she was announced to be the writer of the Batgirl movie, I knew it was going to suck. Because the person who was writing Batgirl before was actually a pretty talented female writer. That was really good at like doing action movies and things like that. And the person they replaced her with, no. That was back when Joss Whedon was going to make Batgirl. That Christina lady is a terrible writer. Lauren Faust would make a banger movie around girl heroes. Yeah, totally. How would you feel if Jared Leto came back as Joker? I don't know. I'm on the fence. His performance was good in Justice League, like the Snyder Cut, but I'm gonna say I'm on the fence. I don't know. I mean, if he has a good script, I don't think that they should have... If they have more Joker, I think that it should just be little teases building up to a bigger performance. I don't think we're ready for a full Jared Leto Joker performance. I think he works really well as like a surprise character type deal. Once we get used to him, they could build up to a bigger role for him. But I worry if he has another starring vehicle. Although I would like to see what the original Joker's vision for the Ayer cut was, because Warner Media did a hatchet job of that. we would have seen an abusive Joker and all this other stuff that Warner Media was terrified of, which actually is what the Joker is. So maybe Jared Leto did a better performance when he was literally an abrasive, abusive jerk to Harley, which would make sense in context why they broke up. Because if you watch the Suicide Squad movie, he breaks her out of jail, and they're all hunky-dunky. And in the Suicide Squad David Ayer cut, he was actually the villain. He was the villain of the picture, not weird CGI lady. Could any other 80s Batman actor come back? What other 80s Batman actor? You mean the guy who played Knox or Vicky Vale? Or Billy D. Williams? Do you really want to see a 70-year-old Two-Face? Let's stop with that. Keaton is enough. We don't need more of Keaton's geriatric club coming back in big pictures. You can have Billy D. Williams voice Two-Face in a video game or like an animated movie or something. I don't want to see old Billy D. Williams with like prune face and then Two-Face on the side. That I don't know how that would work. You know, no thanks. Why couldn't Batgirl been saved in the editing? Because the movie was terrible. You can't replace. I don't think you guys understand what good writing is anymore because you read modern DC Comics, where the entire aspect of DC Comics is identity politics. They don't write good storylines anymore. They write CNN headlines as comic books and orchestrate the plot around CNN headlines. You would have to bring up a good storyline like The Long Halloween, or I would even use Hush as an example, or Lonely Place of Dying, or heck, even Nightfall as like a good plot. And then compare that to the Batgirl movie that has no plot. The only thing about the movie was the casting. They even make a mention in the movie about how Jim Gordon had an interracial marriage or something. And they didn't really need to do that. It's like, who cares? You know? I'll give you an example. In the 80s, if Harvey Dent's wife was white, in the scene where he's at the party with Bruce Wayne, he wouldn't be like, hey, Bruce, this is my white wife. That's what he would do in 2020 because he would have to make an excuse for being married to a white lady because he's black. In the 80s, if, say, Vicky Vale was his wife, he would say, hi, Bruce, this is my wife, Vicky. Vicky would extend her hand, and then they would shake. Same thing in Batman Forever. You know, if you had an interracial couple, they would just be an interracial couple. You don't have to explain that they're interracial. So they make a mention of that in the Batgirl movie. They also make a mention of Batgirl's friend being trans. They didn't need to do that. So they actually go out of their way to explain things they don't need to explain. That's why the movie was terrible. That's why the movie can't be fixed, is because they purposely did these things because they wanted this stuff to be in the movie. David saw the movie and hated it. The executive saw the movie and hated it. There's no salvaging it. It's a woke trash fire film from start to finish. Yes, there's some, very heart-to-heart moments with Jim and Barbara, which is good. That should have been the core of the movie, though. It's not. The whole movie should have been the relationship between Barbara and Jim. It's just like a side story. And the Batman stuff should have been more prevalent. It's just a cameo. You can't fix it. If Warner Brothers theoretically gave me $200,000 to look at the script and told me to rewrite it, I would throw the script out and write an entirely new script. Because it is irredeemable. Do you understand? Does common sense work? There's a difference between good writing and bad writing. It is bad writing from start to finish. No editor worth their grain of salt could fix that mess. Period. Cannot. You want to fix the script? You get the only copy of it, you go up to the lady who wrote it, and you set it on fire in front of her and said, I did you justice to that literal trash fire. That's what the Warner executive should have done when they greenlighted the movie, is they should have been paying attention to the film itself, but they were not. They were more excited about the fact that there were Muslim directors, trans people involved, LGBT people, and that's all that they were going to market the movie as. It wasn't about Batgirl, it's about the people who were in the movie, and that's why the movie cannot be salvaged. In fact, the people who are still trying to champion from the movie are bringing up those key buzzwords as a way to save the movie. Not good enough. Needs to be more than that. And it wasn't. Any news on the rumored DC head, Dan Lin? That was just announced. You're going to have to wait. There are other people in the running to be the next big DC head honcho guy. Take a shot because he knows Alan Horn. Alan Horn and him work together and have a good track record. So if I was Alan Horn, I would say pick Dan because Dan and I work well together. I mean, that would be a no-brainer, right? But they have some other interesting candidates. They have some lady, and they have some other guy who's worked as a Warner Brothers executive previously. But I would say that Dan has the best shot, and he should because he did great things with the Lego brand when Warner Brothers had it. I think, since he played with the Lego sandbox, why couldn't he do DC? Anything's possible, right? Cheap representation is just lame. Yep. Batgirl movie is a failed dumpster fire. End quote. Yes. They changed the directors with Justice League. Yeah, and they also changed the script with Justice League. Why do you think they're doing funeral screenings for the movie? Because it's bad. And I think they want, if the directors or somebody ends up leaking the movie, Warner Brothers will sue them. They have to, because if they don't, the IRS will come after them. Do you think that in the Flash sequel that they're working on, it will be about the Flash entering the multiverse yet again? Can I be honest with you? Are you sitting down? After the Flash movie, I don't think you're going to see the Flash around very much, except in other people's movies. Because there's a lot riding on this. Even Jason Momoa's Aquaman movie, he says it's good. The executives say it's good. Although now they're going to do more stuff to it, which the movie was already good. It was, even with the Ben Affleck stuff, it's good. But now this is what you need to worry about, okay? You're more than a year now, away from the Aquaman release that was ready. And you're going to tell me that after they did the last reshoots, supposedly, that they're just going to sit there and think the movie's fine as is and we're not going to tweak it for all this time we have until the movie comes out? I'm going to be honest. That new release date worries me because I don't think that Warner Brothers can leave the movie alone. I think they're going to do something to really screw it up. Because if they have time to tinker with something, they just don't leave it alone. That's the problem I have. That's why I was getting happy that Aquaman was coming out, because now they can't do anything else to it. This was the last reshoots with Ben Affleck. They're done. No more. VFX stuff, all that stuff is happening now. It's in the can. They're done with it. It's fine. The test screenings are great. Wonderful. Boom. Let's get the VFX done. Movie's ready. Then they moved it to December, and I was like, oh, dear God. That was my reaction. When I first heard it, I was like, oh, no. Unless they get rid of Amber Heard and replace her with another character, I have no idea what they're going to do with the movie. So that worries me. The Flash, I mean, I don't see Ezra, even after he went to therapy or whatever, and, got all better from therapy, Warner Brothers was originally planning on firing Ezra after The Flash anyway, because the actor is a media nightmare. Gonna need more than just one therapy session. I'm sorry. But they should really consider replacing the Flash actor after The Flash. Because there's no guarantee. It's too big of a risk. Too big of a risk. Do you think that... Oh, okay. Now Warner Brothers movies are all delayed and they have nothing to show in the theaters. They have 2 movies. Did you talk about Warner Discovery wanting to cut $3 billion of debt and then losing $20 billion in the market share and then being broke and can't market more than 2 movies a year? Technically, they were $50 billion in debt, and they wanted to cut as much as they could. But yeah, they are in trouble. But they inherited a mess from AT&T. So, I did kind of talk about it. So, would you rather have this Batgirl or Alicia Silverstone? None. Alicia Silverstone was bad, but why risk leaking something at a funeral screening? Because they want to stick it to Warner Brothers, but I don't think they realize the legal ramifications if they did that. Nice to see you, Eclipse. The Flash is going to be in the multiverse. He would have to be non-existent in the multiverse concept, people. Yeah, but I don't think the multiverses is going to be a thing going forward. Since Aquaman 2 is delayed, they could remove Mera. That's true. They need to recast the Flash, agree. James said it's not done yet, but hopefully everything will be okay. They won't recast Ezra. I don't know. I'd rather have Mera replaced with a dolphin. I mean, there is a character called Dolphin in the DC Comics. Quote-unquote therapy. Is that Ezra important for the DC or something? They can't replace him. They should just do the War Machine thing, and then have the new actor like be very meta. Like Bruce Wayne, like Ben Affleck says something, Barry, you look different, and then Barry turns around and says, "It's me." What did he say? It's me. It's always been me. Get over it. Let's get to work or something. You know, just like have a very nonchalant response back to Ben Affleck, and then Ben's just like, oh, okay. Or Ben could say something cheeky like, Barry, did you change your hair or something? I wonder how the marketing for Aquaman 2 is going to go. Very little Mera. Suit me up, Uncle Alfred. Ugh. Have you heard anything about the Green Lantern HBOMAX show? No. Nope. I don't really follow Green Lantern, but nothing good. Put Ezra in a room and tell to resign publicly after the movie. No, they won't do that. Emile Clark would be a pretty cool choice for Mera. Yeah, she would. Nah, have Alfred say it. Yes! Yes! Give Jeremy Irons more to do. I love you. Yes, I agree. Agree. I'm curious, do you think Discovery will take good care of Warner Media or DC, or do you think they'll have a long, bumpy road ahead of them? Honestly, I mean, it's Warner Discovery now. Warner Media is gone. Everybody associated with Warner Media got their walking papers. Only, what's his name, is left till after Black Adam. What's his name? Walter Hamada. He's the only one who's still sticking around, and that's because his contract runs out soon. Everybody else has been all replaced with Discovery people. It was a really messy process, though. They were trying to save money, and they lost billions. And because of that, they can only release 2 movies this year. But next year, they'll be in better shape because they're going to start to license out tons of stuff, and they're going to make money back. A lot of people are kind of laughing at Zaslav right now because he lost like $20 billion. But he lost money like the first year of Discovery anyway. And he turned the company into a Fortune 500 company. Warner Brothers is not a Fortune 500 company right now. They're dying. They were dying before he bought and saved them. So, you know, it's going to be a bumpy road for about a year, and then they're going to bounce back and they're going to make people's heads spin. But they're going to do a lot of things that are going to get people talking, that they're going to try to paint him as like this, you know, huge villain. But, you know, Warner Brothers has been releasing nothing but garbage for like 5 years. So, you know, there's a lot to clean up. I wouldn't take the job. I wouldn't be able to do it. Will Zaslav remove Young Justice? No. Young Justice was already removed under Warner Media. We already had that discussion, though. It was not renewed during the tenure of Warner Media. HBO Max didn't renew it when Warner Media was still in power. They could have. They didn't because the contract was up. And HBO Max didn't offer them a new contract either. So you're falling for bait from Twitter and trade publications blaming Zaslav for that. It's happened before him. He can renew it if he wants to, and he might. You just have to wait and see. Silverstone Batgirl doesn't even have a name in that movie. True. Like a good butler, Alfred is there. Hamada is a moose. I don't know what that means. He doesn't even look like a moose. What do you think the worst thing they could have done with Batgirl is? Release it. Boom chink. It was expected that they were going to lose money. Yep. Batgirl would have lost them a lot. Not only that, but Batgirl would have lost them probably... The Batgirl brand would have been damaged beyond repair if this movie released, and also Batman, Michael Keaton's rep, would have been ruined. So all the people that have like this fondness for Michael Keaton as Batman, seeing him basically berated and treated like he's a toxic male, his fan base would have been in a riot, and Warner Media would have lived off that what do they call it? Not conspiracy. What's that stupid word? Controversy. Warner Media used to live off controversy and hate clicks. You know, they didn't care if they wrecked the brand. They were going to change someone's sexuality. They're going to do whatever they want to get like some type of media buzz. So they were banking on outrage and all this other stuff, and YouTubers talking about their movie and, you know, saving on advertising and all this other crap. Warner Discovery doesn't play that game. Warner Discovery wants their characters to be uplifted and respected, and the movie didn't do Keaton justice, so it got scrapped. It's that simple. It would have ruined the 89 and Returns movie. Like, at least, you know, Keaton's role in the Flash movie does him justice. So, I mean, fans of... You have to remember, he's old, but he still has fans. I am a fan of the 89 and Batman Returns Batman. I love that character. I would be royally upset if the Batgirl movie released and they connected it to his character, which they were planning on, because that would ruin his previous movies. Because think about it. You waited 30 years for the man to come back, and then he produces garbage. I mean, seriously? That would be like, okay, you waited all this time for Tobey Maguire to come back as Spider-Man, and he gave a lackluster performance, and they mistreated his character in the movie. How would you feel? I woke stuff aside, I want to know. How would you guys feel if Tobey Maguire came back all the years of asking and wanting and hoping, and he did not give the homecoming performance you wanted? Far From Home or whatever. How would you feel? Would you feel betrayed? Would you feel angry? Would you feel sad? So, put yourself in the shoes of Keaton fans. This was Batman. The man who hardly spoke in the 89 movie, who came down in a pillar of smoke and kicked some serious ass. Right? Now, take that character and put him in the garbage Batgirl movie. Same character, same actor. How would you feel? The movie deserved to die. Okay? Luckily in the Flash movie, Keaton gives a banger performance. He does justice to his 89 and 92 counterpart. It's not the garbage that Batgirl did. And he's not associated to the garbage that Batgirl did. It's a good story. Right now. It's a good story right now. Yeah. So yeah. That's the difference. So woke Twitter can just like burn in purgatory for all I care. Them wanting to have Keaton in this trash fire of a film and then upset, they're not fans of Keaton. If they were fans of Keaton, they would expect excellence. You know? They're not. It was a movie about Leslie Grace with Keaton in a cameo, but it ruined his reputation as Batman. Or would have. But it never will, because outside of the internet, no one is going to know this movie exists. Outside of a couple fringe group fan cult people. You know? It's gone. It's done. We dodged a bullet. Originally, I used to think, give the movie a shot, it can't be that bad. The Keaton stuff was trash. You know? The way they were orchestrating the plot and the camera angles when Keaton was talking, they were trying to vilify the character. That's how one person explained to me, who was a hardcore fan and was so excited to be at the screening because he got to see Michael Keaton as Batman, and he was heartbroken. This is a guy who has been in the industry down in California for years and is a super Batman fan. Like, loves everything Batman, even current DC Comics. Saw Keaton in the Batgirl movie and was disgusted. He was just heartbroken. The way that the person was describing to me what Keaton was like in the movie, comparing it to what Keaton was last seen like in 92, didn't even feel like the same character. And yet they act like it's the same character in a sense. Or at least the directors are. So yeah, I mean, it was bad. It wouldn't have been, you know, basically Warner Media was banking on your nostalgia and the fact that, you know, people were going over the moon for Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, but you weren't going to get that same love and respect that those actors got when their Spider-Man came back. When his Batman came back, nope. And that's what sucks. And that's what I was always worried about. And everybody was like, oh, it's going to be fine. Michael Keaton wouldn't associate with garbage. It's like, really? What if the movie aligned with his political beliefs? The things that he spouts off, all his crazy theories on Twitter. What if he signed up to a movie like that just for the sake of it? And he didn't care and just wanted a paycheck. And I told somebody that, and they're like, Keaton would never do that. It's like, Keaton would never do that 30 years ago. But guess what? He's going to be in the Batgirl movie. And you've heard what that writer has been saying about what the Batgirl movie is going to be about, right? And the person's like, no. I sent them the article. And the person was like, whoa. I said, yeah, wait till they put that to film. You watch. Have you seen Batman vs. TMNT? I thought it was good. Batman vs. TMNT, the animated movie, they make a lot of good animated films. They really do. I feel that Keaton's movies are about the villains than being Batman. It's a lot of him walking around and tossing people off buildings, shooting them in his jet car, and then he kills the Joker. Does Warner Media have a bright future ahead of it? I guess we'll see. I mean, Keaton was a Batman that didn't talk, though. That wasn't what his character was. He was supposed to scare you. He's a guy who shows up and beats the tar out of you, and, you know, that's it. It wasn't. He was supposed to be a mysterious character because he was going after the. He orchestrated his Batman based on the Golden Age Batman, so the Bob Kane, Bill Finger run, and he also liked the Frank Miller stuff. So they had Frank Miller Year One, and they had the Dark Knight Returns as what do they call that stuff for Keaton? What do they call that? Research material or something, and he based his Batman on those types of Batman. They didn't give him the detective Batman stories of the 70s and 80s like they did Bale. Bale read things like the man, or not the man who, what was the name of that story? The Man Who Falls, which was an 80s Batman story that was before Frank Miller's time. And it's actually a great Batman story. It's an origin story for Batman explaining why he does what he does. It's a beautiful, well-written story. It's a very short story, but Bale was given that type of stuff. He was given the Danny O'Neill and Neil Adams stuff for his research. They didn't really give him the Dark Knight Returns stuff until he had the Dark Knight Returns material during the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises. The director, Christopher Nolan, made sure he had things that were like very prominent Batman storylines that dealt with the characters that he would be meeting in his movie, like Ra's al Ghul. So he had the Tale of the Demon that he read. And, you know, if you actually go back and read the 70s Batman storylines, they're amazing. Better than any Batman story we have today. Bar none. And Bale, outside of his goofy voice, you know, based his type of Batman on that interpretation. Keaton, the research that he had was based on the Golden Age Batman. If you go back and you read the Golden Age Batman, he killed. And he had one-liners. But if you go back and you read the Golden Age Batman stuff from 39 through like 45, he hardly talked. The only time that he talked is when Robin was around. That's just who his Batman was. The reason why they put Robin in the comics in the 40s is so that Batman would have a character that he could bounce dialogue off that wasn't Commissioner Gordon. You know? And also so the reader could insert themselves into Batman's adventures. It was like young people's vehicle into the Batman world. Before, go back. Bruce Wayne talked a lot in those Golden Age books, which exactly is what Keaton did in his movies. But Golden Age Batman didn't really say much until he killed you. It's true. That's why I don't really like reading them. Yep, the 70s Batman comics are GOAT. And I wish a lot of people would use that as an example for today's films. But they won't. He did too kill people. He broke the neck of several people from his rope swing. He killed a guy with a pair of pliers, and then he said a fitting end to his kind when the girl showed up. He killed a bunch of people in the 40s, especially in 1939. You just didn't pay attention. Go back and read one of the issues where he comes in on a rope swing, kicks a Chinese guy in the neck, and you see crack. Crack is a term in comics to show broken bone. If he would have like just kicked him in the face, it would have said like pow or something. They literally wrote crack. And then they have the guy slumped over and his neck looks a little different. He's dead. They even said he was dead. There was a dude who trapped Batman inside of a and one of the this is why I don't like the Golden Age books though. I don't like them. I mean, they're better than DC Comics today, I guess, but they were pretty grotesque. There's one scene where Batman is inside of this like poison gas chamber and this maniacal dude is trying to kill him or something. And he like breaks out of it using a pair of pliers he gets somewhere. And then he uses the same pair of pliers to kill the guy who put him in there. And he says some goofy one-liner, and the book is over. And then he doesn't even excuse why he does it. He just does it. And then by the time Robin comes into the books, he doesn't really kill that much anymore. Although he killed a couple times when Robin was around. And then he just stops. Like, they don't really address that he killed people before. It almost feels like the Golden Age Batman comics were kind of like what the animated series was. One-off issues that featured the character, but the stories weren't really interconnected. Interconnected stories came later. It was like how almost every episode of Batman the Animated Series was just kind of like its own singular adventure. and like didn't necessarily have a continuity until fans made a crazy continuity to every episode. You know? Like, the continuity for Batman comics came later. Each issue was written like it was a standalone issue in a sense, because they didn't know how often they would get the comic printed. Why make a huge orchestrated story other than, you know, the billionaire guy who turns into Batman? You know? That was Earth 2 Batman. That universe no longer exists. There you go. Thank God Golden Age Batman hasn't been canon since the 50s. I know, right? I don't like him. People say, hey, you're a fan of Batman. Does that mean you like the Golden Age? And I said, no. And they're like, why? I said, why would I like the Golden Age? Batman kills in it. He does MCU one-liners. And the stories are just kind of meh. It's not really... I said, my favorite stuff is the 70s and 80s Batman run. Because they're detective stories. Murder mysteries. Team-ups. You know, not goofy team-ups where Batman and Superman go to some weird planet. Like, actual cool team-ups. You know? I wish we had stuff like that again, but yeah. Episodic storylines branching off to a story that's beginning to unravel in the middle shows is so satisfying. It was. But, I mean, it didn't happen in the beginning. Did you hear that Gotham TV show is going to be on HBO Max on September 30th? Oh, gosh. That's funny. I want to see what happens when that show's on the air. I want to see what Warner Discovery does. I want to see if they pull the plug after, like, 1 week. That would not surprise me. I like it when Batman kills. I like it when he does it in the 89 movies. How do I feel about the White Knight comic run? It's okay. I don't hate the White Knight run. It's alright. 70s, 80s, and 90s were great for DC Comics. Yep, I agree. Have you seen the new Gotham Knights villain trailer? Yes. I just haven't had time to make a video. I'd actually like to see a Batman movie that focuses on detective work rather than Batman battles a real crime thriller movie. I would agree, yeah. Are you enjoying the Zdarsky Batman? No. The Chip Zdarsky one, he went crazy. He did something to Batman, or he's hinted at something at Batman. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Just like Urban Legends was not supposed to be a canon run, as soon as they do what they're planning on doing with Batman, they're going to make it canon. Watch. The Urban Legends stuff was supposed to be like a fun side story thing for Batman stuff. And it was not supposed to be canon, ever. And then they did the Tim Drake stuff, and lo and behold, it's canon. So all the stuff that they're talking about Batman's sexuality right now in the Chip Zdarsky run, they're going to make it canon. You watch. It was supposed to be Elseworlds stuff, and people are like, somebody told me to calm my tits a little while ago. They said, it's Elseworlds. And I fired back at them. I said, so was Urban Legends. It was supposed to be an Elseworlds thing. Was never supposed to be canon. It was never, what was that thing? Where you pitch something, that's a pitch. It was never pitched as a canon thing. It was supposed to be fun, interesting Batman stories featuring the Bat family that was not connected to the canonical universe. And then they changed that. So when people were telling me, oh, well, I mean, if they do this to Batman here, it's just this universe. It's like, that's fine. That's great if they keep it that. But you have a lot of weirdos and whack jobs at DC that they're going to see something from that, and then they're going to do it in their book. It's an entryway. It's like, I would love if they would honor, hey, you want to do that with Batman? Cool. Do that in just his one book, this one universe. Batman doesn't have to be straight in every universe, but in canon he needs to be. Otherwise, you have so many groomer allegations and so many pedophilia things that go back to the whole Comics Code Authority thing that just creates this huge mess. Which I don't even think DC Comics is self-aware like that, but they're not even going to be aware that they're going to be purged soon anyway. Like, they're so far up their own butts that they have no idea what's coming. Like, they have no idea. They think they're invincible because of their diversity hires. So, I liked his run, but he's been doing weird stuff. So as long as it's not canon, I don't care. You can do whatever you want with Batman as long as it's not canon. Just got here. Sorry if you already talked about it, but what did you think of the Nightwing boss fight from Gotham Knights? Looked cool. Apparently Jeff Johns is a psycho, but he's a good writer. He would never have pulled something like that. Nope. Didn't Damian Wayne start out as Elseworlds? Yes, he did. What's your opinion on Dark Knights of Steel? It's interesting. I like the medieval aspect of it. Even the new people in charge think that way? No. Zaslav's team has no idea. Yet. What's your Bat family ranking? Nightwing, Batman, Robin. Wait, no. Hang on. Nightwing, Batgirl, Batman, Robin, Alfred. Who else? Signal. I like Signal. Batwing. Kate, I guess. Depends on who's writing her. Oh, wait, no, screw that. Hang on. Nightwing, Batgirl, Batman, Tim, Steph, Cass, Jason, Alfred, Signal, Batwing, Damian, Damian's lower, Batcow. Never heard of Signal. Duke Thomas? Duke's awesome. He's got superpowers. Jason that low? Hey, I voted to kill Jason. You're welcome. He came back as Red Hood. Signal is aight. He's got superpowers. And he fights crime during the day. It's cool. Thank you, you're welcome. I called that hotline. Shoot. Jason made a mockery of Robin. What about spin-off starring Wonder Girl? What spin-off? What are you talking about, Richard Tracy? I like the Dick Tracy thing. Will WB Games improve or be saved? We'll find out, won't we? I already talked about Bat Family. Could Duke movie work? I mean, if they have a good writer. As long as you have... Look, as long as you get a good writer to write these film movies and you focus on the characters... Not what the characters look at, not whether the characters live, not the characters' social issues. You actually write a good story about that character's origin, their supervillain that they're going to fight, and whatever the plot is, you can make a good movie of any Bat Family character if you follow those points. The Batgirl movie did not follow those points. So with a Signal movie... Focus on how Duke got his powers. Have Batman... That's the type of movie where you can have Batman be a cameo. Because Duke was doing stuff on his own before he met Batman. You know, you don't even have to do the whole We Are Robins thing. You could have him be like this guy who's kind of helping out in his neighborhood or something like that as a vigilante. He runs into Batman. Batman takes an interest in the kid. And we learn he's a metahuman. And maybe something's going down in his neighborhood where he has to step it up. He gets a new suit from Batman, kicks some butt, and then becomes an official part of the Bat Family at the end of the movie. Boom. Done. Not hard. You know? Sounds very Saturday morning, but, you know. Doesn't sound too bad. That panel that they put if Jason lived looks so weird. Batman smiles and nightmare fuel in there. Want a Signal movie now. I've heard good things about Sandman. I have been on a live with you on this account. Spider-Man games? I've never been on a live thing with you on this. I'm live very late at night because I stream 8 hours a day on my other channel. Like, I live stream a lot. It's my revenue. So I work from 5:30 at night until 1 in the morning, usually. And then I made a rare exception to come over here to hang out with you guys because I forget. People really wanted me to. So I carved out some time I had. because you guys are special like that. Supergirl movie would be nice call of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Supergirl movie would work if they... You can do a Supergirl movie after you introduce her with Superman. You don't want to introduce a sidekick character in their own movie without the titular character. It doesn't work. That's why the Supergirl movie got scrapped, because they were going to completely forego Superman. You can't do that. You need the pillar first. The pillar is Batman or Superman, and then you introduce the other characters that are associated with that title character. I mean, that's not even common sense. That's just good writing. You make a foundation, and then you expand the foundation, or you add more rooms to the house afterwards. Foundation needs to be Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, and then you go Nightwing, or Batgirl, Supergirl, or Connor, Wonder Girl, or Donna, and then from there you would go maybe a Donna and, I don't know, Wonder Woman team-up movie, or maybe from Batman you introduce Robin, and from Robin you introduce a Titans movie. You just keep going from there. As long as you have a pillar, a firm foundation, you can do whatever you want. But Warner Media wasn't going to have a firm foundation. They were basically building their foundation on sand. Like, they weren't building a solid rock for Batgirl and Supergirl to be on. They were trying their best to try to raise these characters at a level they've never been and never will be without their characters that they're from. You don't make a Bucky movie without first having Captain America. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, well, Captain America's been introduced in the MCU. It's like the MCU is going to go forever. Probably. Until it stops making Disney movie. When it stops making Disney money, they'll stop. Until then, the MCU is just going to be around. Like, always. Good or bad, it's going to be around. So, feminist argument with the Batgirl movie is, well, you've already had Michael Keaton as Batman, you've had George Clooney as Batman, and you've had all this other stuff. The difference that they're trying to do is they were trying to make Batgirl for the next 10 years as the main shared universe DC Batman in film. Not that, Matt Reeves is doing his thing, so Batman would be there, but they were trying to put this character at the head of the shared universe without Batman. And they couldn't do that. So then they got 70-year-old Batman to be there with her, and then they were going to make 70-year-old Batman look stupid and build her up above him. Because how Hollywood writers today do things is you have to belittle, make fun of, and point at a male character for being less than you to build yourself up. You can't be good on your own. You have to push down the male character, down to the patriarchy, and rise above that to prove you're better. That's the writing mentality a lot of these female power movies have. So, it doesn't work. You don't want that type of character at the head of your superhero universe. So what Zaslav did is he saw what the future plan was, and he said, no, that's not Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman at the forefront. So that's why Batgirl, Supergirl, all these other movies won't work. Is because it doesn't match the new ideal, which is the Trinity, the real Trinity. Makes perfect sense. Do I think they'll eventually do a hard DCU reboot? Yeah, like 7 years. I know they say 10-year plan, but Ben Affleck's not going to be around forever. And sure as heck, Robert Pattinson's not going to want to be Batman after his 2 movies. So no, I don't. They have a 10-year plan supposedly, but no, I don't see the current DCU lasting more than 5 years. Like, I think that Ben is going to show up in like 3 or 4 movies, mostly in like cameo role or 10, 15 minutes. Maybe one Justice League movie, and then that's it. Like, then they're going to do a hard reboot somehow. And fans will be happy because they got to see more Ben Affleck. Even if you never got his own Batman movie, you saw more Ben and really cool stuff. Zaslav made money, and then Ben retires, and they get a new Batman actor in the next shared universe. That's where I think they're trying to go with this. Because, Ben walked away because his life was a mess. If I was Ben and I came back, I would want to have my character leave in a way that is fulfilling, and also I feel fulfilled as an actor, not to just like, cast the role aside and be like, okay, whatever, it's just a role, because he is a fan or he wouldn't have done it. Like, it wasn't just a role to him. He was very excited to be cast as Batman in BVS. Like, his old interviews, his commentary. Ben has lots of wacky commentary in movies he liked. So go back and listen to Ben's commentary in BVS. And even Apocalypse Now and some other stuff. The things that he really likes, he has a lot of fun with. And his interviews reflect that. When things are bad in his life, then his life falls apart. But that's the same with a lot of people, So I'm hoping things work out for him. I would like to see him, pass on the mantle to a younger actor, because I think that he's 50 now. I can't see him doing Batman for 10 years. No. I see him filming, if they get their act together, doing, over the next 3 years, his, little appearances. And then that's it. But at least fans won't complain, oh, he was only in a couple movies, blah, 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 and we never got to see him do this and that. I think Warner Media had no plans to really do that, except bring him back for Final Crisis or whatever. I don't know if the Final Crisis plan is happening anymore, because that was Walter Hamada, but the way that he explained his Final Crisis movie was garbage. So, his Final Crisis was really bad. Let him be Batman until Reeves is done with Pattinson. Pattinson, too, can't stand him. You like Marvel, right? So have you thought about covering Marvel news on this channel or any other channel? How do I explain this? The 01 channel is Batman. I've dabbled in DC, which I'm not very good at. Batman is my wheelhouse. This channel is dark. This channel is depressing. It's Batman. On the Let's Play channel, I cover Marvel games. I always have. I get this question a lot. Do you like Marvel? Do you do anything with Marvel? Yes. I have covered, in the past 15 years, I've done 20 Marvel games. So, yeah. Kwing is the emo king. Oh, man. Do I have to start wearing, mascara under my eyes now? Or shoe polish or something like that? And, listen to grungy music? Christian Bale was a great Batman, except for his voice. He loves Marvel as well. Yeah, I cover both. But I'm a DC guy at heart, but Batman guy. Have you seen the transcription of What If Tim Burton directed Batman Forever done by Channel Awesome? No, I've not. I don't think Kwing is dark. You don't know me personally. I'm pretty dark. I'm very pessimistic, and yeah. Not saying now, just in general, he'd probably be pretty different now that it wouldn't be Snyderverse. It's not going to be the Snyderverse. I've had Snyderverse... I don't like calling them a cult, but I've had Snyderverse people, DM me, crazy stuff. Because, I've been critical of Zack, so sometimes they see me as an enemy, and then I say something pro-Snyder, and then they're, my best friends again. And I'm like, my stance hasn't changed on Robin, just so you know. Sometimes I say that, and then they start walling out again. But when Ben Affleck came to Aquaman, I had my DMs were full. You remember I sleep during the day, right? So the day that Ben Affleck came back, I had 100 DMs on my Twitter. It was just all blown up with the same thing. People saying, "Do you know about Ben? Do you know about Ben? Do you know about Ben?" All these Snyder people, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And, I'd heard rumors that Ben was going to be doing something with DC films before, based on what somebody said on... It was either some DC Reddit or something like that. It was either DC Reddit or it was one of those... what do they call those places? I can't even think anymore. It was a Discord server or something like that. And I just was kind of Ben will never be back, because I was starting to believe Ben would never be back. But the day that he came back... and Jason Momoa broke the internet, I had hundreds of DMs from more than half of them, I kid you not, was from Snyder people, Zack Snyder fans. And it was interesting to see, because some of those people used to blast me on Twitter about my stance on Zack Snyder. Telling people that I'm a hack and that don't follow this guy because he's trying to be a scooper. I'm never trying to be a scooper. Scoops fall in my lap sometime, but I'm not a scooper. I was a journalist, but I hate that term now, so I just call myself a reporter because I don't want to be associated with modern journalism. I'd rather drink bleach. I think that would be healthier for me than being associated with that profession. So it was surprising to me to see all that stuff. And every once in a while with all this stuff, people contact me and they're like, well, now that they're delaying Aquaman, is like, what's going to happen to Ben now? It's like, I just replied to them. I said, do you honestly think that Warner Brothers would still allow Jason Momoa to tell people in interviews that Ben is back, and for them to have all this good press that Ben is back, just to yank him in favor of Michael Keaton, who may or may not have burned bridges with the Batgirl film? You really think that's a smart idea for Warner Discovery to do? You know? And then they say, oh, I guess you're right. It's like, of course I'm right. That would be like commercial suicide. Also, do you think Ben Affleck is going to be super happy with them if he came back to do the role and then they yank him the way they did Keaton? I mean, he's an Oscar-winning star. You want as many Oscar winners in your clubhouse as possible to keep them happy. You don't just go pull the rug out from under them. That's stupid. You know, they're doing all this promotion that Ben is back in Aquaman and he's in The Flash. You honestly think they're going to, just because they move the film, that they're going to yeet him again? Because he was supposed to appear in the Aquaman movie, one of the Aquaman movies before, and he walked away from the role. And now that he's back, he's in Aquaman. I mean, there is like a whole marketing thing. They do realize this, right? It's kind of a big deal when you say you have like this Oscar-winning person that everybody wants to see back in your movie as a big draw to go see your movie that has controversy attached to it. They're banking on people to go see the movie because Ben Affleck is in it, even if Mira is still in the movie. They're goading you to see the movie, like, because Ben Affleck. And you don't think... I even talked to a Snyder person. I said, with the Blue Beetle movie, you don't think that they're going to squeeze a Ben Affleck cameo as Batman in Blue Beetle to introduce like it into a more shared universe once that movie is, you know, ready to be in post-production or whatever? Like, Ben Affleck is going to be their, like, Robert Downey Jr. character until they're done, you know, using that character. It's not just going to be a one-time thing. It doesn't make any sense. You know, they need as much good publicity and star power as they can. And if Henry Cavill really does show up in Black Adam, you know, like people are saying, then that is going to cause all the Man of Steel people to lose their minds. And it's not just going to be a headless cameo, you know? That is going to get the internet talking for weeks and months. Even if it's only like 5 seconds. If they see his face attached to his super suit, people are going to lose their minds. And that's what Warner Discovery is banking on. You know? Even though there's no Superman movie announced, mind you. Like, there's no plans or anything. If Henry shows up as Superman, that's going to push The Rock's movie into a $1 billion film. Almost. I would be surprised if it makes $850 million or, like, you know, we'll say maybe $800 million. If Henry Cavill isn't in it, I would say that the film probably will make 600, maybe 5. Maybe. But, you know, all these Snyder people are going to go see the movie because they're thinking Superman's in it. Even if he's in it for like 5 seconds. You know? And if he's not in it, then people are going to be very angry and they'll review bomb the movie and it'll be bad, very bad PR for Black Adam. And I think The Rock knows that. Or maybe I'm just smarter than most executives. I don't know. Aliens in space. Haha, no way Toby Stevens can play Batman. I have no idea who that is. You guys are talking about weird stuff. Are we good? Because I'm losing my voice a little bit. Kwing, I'd be Batman? Sure, go for it. Did we cover everything? You guys get most of your questions asked? This is a 3-hour podcast now. And I've got 2 hours to get your YouTube short up. I need to grind in... Do I need to grind in anything? I need to eat something. And then I think... I think I have a multiverses video to go up today. I don't remember. I'm kind of in a haze now. I think I was blindsided by the headlines and I thought it was all doom and gloom for Warner Discovery, but you opened my eyes. I'm just trying to be the common sense guy. I'm not, like... I don't have a business degree. I was a good journalist when I was in the game industry for 10 years. I researched everything I could about the subject that was put in my lap, whether I hated the game or liked it. I take that same mentality when it comes to like Batman in animated movies and video games and movies. I probably said movies twice because I'm wicked tired. But I try to present information that's easy to understand. I don't try to use big words or talk in circles. I try to present things as I've heard it. Let people, if it's rumor or if it's fiction or whatever. I'm just here to present things I heard. And if it matches up with other people, cool. I'm not trying to outscoop anybody. I'm not trying to be a scooper. I'm just trying to explain things reasonably as best I can and poke fun at some people because I'm a jerk. I like to make fun of people that deserve it. I have no qualms about doing that. Walk quietly, carry a big stick kind of guy. I guess that's one of the traits my wife likes about me. I don't know. But I always try to keep things as easy as possible to understand because I don't like it when I go to these 3-minute YouTube videos and they start using all these big words that they don't use outside of their YouTube videos because, or they just like hear one rumor and they talk about it for like 10 minutes, but they don't really get to the point about what the rumor was. They're just trying to save face and say, well, it could be this, but then again, this doesn't match with this political climate and blah, 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 blah. And then they never really get back to the rumor and they say, okay, guys, that's the video. And it's like, but you didn't even really say what the rumor was. Your title said what the rumor was, but you didn't even talk about what the rumor is. Whereas when I do my videos, it's like, hey, Ben Affleck is rumored to come back and he might be in this movie or this movie. And this is why I think it would work. This is why I think it might not work. This is why it might be true. This is why it might not be true. I just try to get to the heart of the thing, and then boom, done. Unfortunately, I had 15 topics that came to 3 hours. Well, actually, no. 15 topics that came to an hour and a half, and then Q&A that came to 2 hours. Or something like that. I tend to do that. Snyder was done with Warner Media. Warner Media's gone. Former gaming journalist. See, I don't want to be associated with that. Gaming journalist is cancer now. I can't be associated with that. It makes me sick to my stomach. It was a great profession. It was something that I always wanted to do. I was a big fan of Nintendo Power. I liked IGN in the 90s. And then once I got into that industry near the end of my tenure or whatever, I was just disgusted. It was heartbreaking. I'm going through what I went through when I retired as a game journalist, what I'm seeing with DC Comics right now, and I'm just waiting for them to pull the plug at this point, because I can't stand DC anymore. Like, their comics. I love their movies, I like their animated stuff, I like their video games. Their comics disgust me. They're no fun anymore, in-your-face crap, and it's just not... I'm just waiting for Zaslav to pull the plug. And I think it deserves to have the plug pulled, because it's a mess. And no amount of money can fix it. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe certain talented people can fix it, but I don't have faith in it anymore. Live action is okay. I have no idea who that is. David needs to fire all the crazies at DC. Be nice. I don't know if he can, though. Although, most of the crazies have failing books, so it'd probably be pretty easy to give them their walking papers. I don't know. Also, I mean, a lot of them have said bad things about the new CEO. We could always use that as reference for firing people. Talking bad about your boss usually gets you fired. In the sane world, it does. You can't do that kind of stuff. It happens all the time. If you say something bad about your employment and then the employment finds out about you, they fire you, and then you're like, why? I had free speech. It's like you were bad-mouthing a company that you're associated with, and the company fired you. It happens all the time. So you could hope for that. Okay. DC Comics used to stand for Detective Comics. Now it stands for Dead Comics. What? Captain Beastswinger, what is it? You make me scroll up so much, guy. Respond to my final question. Oh, but how far up is it? Oh, Clip says, I honestly thought they would switch Affleck out for Keaton after they changed Aquaman release date to 2023. That's okay, Clips. I mean, it could happen, but I don't know. I don't think so. Not after making all the... They never really said, you're a fan of yourself, Batman? Who's Batman? Me? I'm not Batman. I can't find you, Beastwinger. I'm scrolling. Luke, how would you feel about Affleck doing Batman Beyond eventually? Isn't he kind of young? And he looks really young. Even when he's 60, he's going to look really young. That man is really good shape. Have you seen some of the Power Ranger actors that are in their mid-50s now? Those guys are still ripped. That's incredible. Like, I'm going to go out on a limb that 50 is almost kind of like the new 30 now. Like, a lot of these guys in their 50s that are actors, they look almost like they're in their 30s still. Not just the women. Some of the guys, you know, they don't really look old at all. Walter Jones is jacked. And he doesn't look like... Not like that gross kind of jacked. You know, like sometimes when these older actors, they still get buff and you see the veins all over them and they look gross for having all this muscle. I mean, he looks like a Black Ranger that could kick butt and take names, and he's like mid-50s. You know, that's impressive. You know? I think that he could probably do... Do I think Jim Lee will quit comics? I hope not, but I don't think he's going to be the head of it anymore. Like, he's you know, really done dirty to DC. I mean, he didn't really do a good job. I hope that they don't burn bridges with him because he's an amazing artist and creative person, but he's not very good at running a company. It was a two-man job between him and Danny Boy, and, you know, Jim by himself, he's not very good. As much as I love Jim... Jim is a very bad executive. He let a lot of crap happen. That never happened with Dan. I was very critical of Dan, but Dan kept order. I will admit I was wrong. Dan leaving DC Comics was the end of DC Comics. It was a slow, painful death. And I take back... The only thing that I think that Dan and I did not agree on was his stance on Nightwing and legacy characters, but... I don't think DC Comics would have ended up the same way without Dan involved. So I think AT&T firing him was so that they could push whatever they wanted into comics. I'm gonna put that conspiracy out there because it was after Dan was fired is when all the weird stuff happened at DC. All the weird stuff. It was a little weird with Dan, but it wasn't like an overloaded weirdness. That all happened afterwards. Dan Tidio was a hero. We just couldn't see it. No, I'm not going that far. I'm not going that far down the Jonah thing. I'm just saying it's awfully convenient that DC kind of slid down the cliff after Dan left. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he was a hero. I didn't like the guy. I was very critical when he was there. But maybe he wasn't as bad as I thought because there was worse things that happened after he left. Lesser of two evils. There you go. Thank you. I'll take that. Okay. I'm done. This was a long podcast, and I told you guys and gals I have work to do. So, hopefully you guys are satisfied. I will try to do another podcast like this when I can. Like I said, the reason for me not doing a lot of stuff on this channel right now is my work schedule has changed. Like, case in point, I'll explain right now. These podcasts, when you would have 400 to 200 people watching you for the entirety of your podcast, that would be 20,000 views, 10,000 views. YouTube changed their policy for live streaming, what they count as views now, to below that of their competitors at Twitch and Facebook Gaming, Ustream, and all the other places. I don't know why they did it. Maybe they hired somebody who's bad at math, but now people who are live streaming get less views, less, what do they call it, watch time, and all this other stuff, whereas before, like, a 400 viewed stream would be like tons and tons of views, which would be fine. Now, I will give you guys an honest thing. 3-hour stream, YouTube gave me 2,000 views on this stream. If I was streaming this with you guys on Twitch right now, as we were ending the stream, be 15,000 views as the stream's over. So, before, my time was cut down a lot on the Let's Play channel because I was doing 4 streams at an hour and a half each, and I was getting about 1,000 to 2,000 views a stream. On August 8th of 2022, YouTube issued a private changing of YouTube viewership and how they count live stream views to less that of their competitors. So now my streams that have 90 people watching on YouTube Gaming over on the Let's Play channel for some obscure games, instead of getting 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000 views after an hour and a half for 90 people, I now get 900 to 1,000 views. If I have 200 people watching a multiverse stream, instead of getting 10,000 views, I get 2,000 or I get 3,000. So now I have to stream longer to get less. So my streams now on the Let's Play channel now are about 2 hours each. So if I do 3 streams starting at 5:30, Xenoblade is 2 hours, whatever else at 8 is 2 hours, and then 10 o'clock stream is 2 hours. That's 6 hours for just 3 streams. Whereas before I used to do 4 streams in 6 hours, which would give me more watch time, more revenue, and YouTube took that away. And they haven't issued a statement why they did it, but a lot of people are familiar that they've done it because people are complaining. They even lowered the amount of views you get for uploads now. My theory is they're doing it to try to railroad drama channels off the platform because they generate lots and lots of views from live streaming. Like, that's their way of trying to, you know, make those people go away. It's just a theory I have. I have no concrete proof. Either that or YouTube are morons and they don't really know that Facebook and Twitch are going to kill them, and because really big, high-profile streamers who aren't making the revenue and the views that they were are going to leave because nobody wants to work for less and nobody wants to earn less for their work. Like, I mean, I don't feel like I did a lot of work with this stream. I just had fun shooting the breeze with you guys, but 2,000 views for like close to 300 people or 300 people over, that's ridiculous. That's not math at all. So YouTube is slowly killing their platform, and by the time I'm done working, I'm exhausted now. Like, I've literally fallen asleep on the couch after my last stream of the night when it ends around 1 a.m. because I have to stream longer and I get less everything. Less views, less revenue. But if I stop, then my views plummet even more. So it leaves me no time to work on this channel other than these crazy podcasts, which I'm actually going to be sleeping like for 10 hours afterwards, and I'll probably be late for my Xenoblade stream tomorrow. But I don't have time to make like a 3 or 10-minute video edited. All that stuff, I don't know when that's going to happen again. I don't even know how long I'm going to stay on YouTube because, like, over on my Let's Play channel, because I might have to do stuff on Twitch. Because I can't do these, like, 2.5-hour streams 3-4 times a day. by the time I finish, it's already 1 a.m. and I'm falling asleep because it takes a lot. But oops, there goes my phone. So yeah, that's why I haven't abandoned you guys. I would like time to come over here, and they're not giving me any time. Like I had time in my schedule to do podcasts, do live streams, do uploads. I don't have time at all. So I'm going to make time during Gotham Knights, but it's probably going to kill me. Or at the very least, make me very sick. I'm a lot stronger than I look. But yeah, anyway, you people take care. And if people list this back, have a good day. Stay safe, everybody. God bless, happy gaming, all that good stuff. And just buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy road for the Z team, but we'll see what happens. Either I could be right and more hammers are going to fall, or they could be done now and just try to recuperate their losses. But I don't think they're done yet. I think the roller coaster is going to continue on until November. So we'll be back talking about it most likely. Take care, everybody. You're all breathtaking. Bye-bye.